financial centers of the world. This is Bloomberg Markets with Alex Steele and Guy Johnson.
It's 30 minutes into the U.S. trading day on Tuesday, March 8th. Here are the top market stories we are following for you at this hour. Here come the embargoes. The Biden administration is set to impose a ban on Russian energy imports as soon as today, with the president expected to speak later this hour. The U.K. is preparing to announce a similar ban on oil, but not gas. Bracing for the fallout, the EU is considering issuing joint bonds at a major scale to finance energy and defense spending and blunt the impact of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This after the Kremlin's threat to cut off gas flows from Nord Stream 1. And like a meme stock, nickel spikes an unprecedented 250% in a massive short squeeze, forcing the LME to halt trading and leaving a Chinese tycoon facing billions in losses. We'll have more on the actions in metals with Andrew Forrest of Fortescue. From New York, I'm Kaylee Lyons with Guy Johnson in London. Alex Steele is off today. Welcome to Bloomberg Markets. Guy, happy Tuesday. It is commodities and energy front and center.
Absolutely. We're going to hear from the president a little bit later on in the show. 10:45 in theory. We'll see exactly when it happens, in theory. But it's interesting, Kaylee, that we find ourselves in a situation where parking the UK to one side and its partial potential ban on Russian energy, it is the US going it alone. Europe can't deal with this. And the second headline you read out there talking about the fact that Europe is looking maybe to issue significant numbers of joint bonds to A, rearm, and B, deal with the consequences of this energy story, I think is highly significant. Europe is in the crosshairs of this story. And the economic impact, I think, is at this point really hard to gauge. It's interesting that economists at this point are not downgrading their economic forecasts. I checked the winter forecast from the European Commission a little bit earlier on. The last one was a 2022 growth of 4%. What's the downside potential on that number? Is it now inevitable that Europe is going to be facing some kind of a recession? So that brings us to our question of the day, and we're trying to analyze exactly what is happening with prices right now. Are investors correctly pricing European risk? To try and answer this question, we bring in Karen Ward, JP Morgan's chief EMEA market strategist for JP Morgan Wealth, and Bloomberg's Justina Lee. Justina, let me start with you. Economists are probably racing to catch up on the implications of what is happening here for the European economy. Highly exposed to Russian gas prices, energy prices going through the roof, just about everything in terms of the commodity space moving up and up very sharply. Do we yet have a handle, do economists yet have a handle on understanding and then pricing the economic downside here?
I think not yet. I mean, we've seen a huge reaction in equities. You know, the Stocks Europe 600's valuation is now the lowest since the depths of the pandemic. But, you know, if we're still looking at sell-side forecasts, the GDP forecasts have only been downgraded very so slightly. And I think it's especially hard to grapple with, given that shortly before the invasion, the narrative was all about the recovery from COVID. And so it's really been a very sharp change from that story.
It has indeed been sharp. So, Karen, to bring you in here, how has your view of Europe changed in the last 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, significantly, as you say, if we are faced with an absolute stop in supply of gas, then for certain industries, and I think there will be just a technical, if nothing else, stop. So these are, you know, those industries, steel, etc., that rely on these raw materials. For the broader economy, you know, the upside is we did come into this crisis with consumers in very good shape, high levels of savings, the jobs market very good, wages pushing up. The critical things to watch right now are to what degree are governments willing to absorb this cost. We've seen in the pandemic that if governments are willing to use their balance sheet, that can be very significant in insulating the private sector. So the news this morning that Guy pointed to is very significant. I think we're going to see a swathe of action, not only to try and shift energy sourcing and energy efficiency and move away from dependence on Russian imports, but a whole suite of packages that will support the consumer. The other thing that Europe has is a central bank which is under no pressure with regards to inflation, and they can provide support. We're going to hear from them on Thursday.
I'm looking forward to going to Frankfurt to hear from Madame Lagarde. Karen, The ECB's mandate, though, is inflation. And if inflation rips higher in Europe, that's going to cause significant economic damage anyway. The consumer is definitely in the firing line here. Sure, the government spending may sort of blunt that, but this is a short-term, near-term impact that consumers are going to feel. It's food prices. Is the government going to support those? It's energy prices. Well, we may see some action there, but is it going to be complete? The consumer in Europe looks like it is facing a number of different, really difficult problems at the moment. And I'm wondering whether or not that's enough to bring down growth forecasts from circa 4% now down to 0 or potentially below that.
I definitely think 4% growth is not going to happen. As you say, those forecasts are now too old. Don't forget the market, though. There's a real distinction between economists' forecasts and the market. I think the European markets, now down 14, 15%, are already pricing a mild recession. So whatever happens to the economist forecast, I think the actual stock markets are already there. I agree. I don't think governments are going to absorb the full cost of that, but I think they will insulate lower income households, the bottom half of the income spectrum, and then the upper half of the income spectrum have been saving because they haven't been allowed out for the last 2 years because of the pandemic. So I don't think that this is, a real wage catastrophe. I also think that we have to remember, because there's so much reflection on the 1970s, that we've been through many periods in the past where real wages have been squeezed or falling, and it hasn't given us a recession. What's given us a recession is when the central banks worry about inflation, slam on the brakes. I don't think we're going to hear that from the ECB. I think they're going to say, he can't bring down energy prices by raising rates. That's going to slow the economy. We're not going to compound the problem. We'll hear reassurance from them, and they'll be supportive.
Okay, well, Justina, I'm taking a look right now at oil prices reacting to all of this news, up more than 7% on both Brent and WTI. Brent at 132, oil at 128. Clearly, all of this kind of fueling the inflation or stagflation narrative. Where in the market does the greatest repricing need to happen for a kind of recession scenario, or is that already starting to be priced in?
I think we're definitely starting to see that, in equities and obviously, after such a sharp move in commodities. I was reading kind of a note from Bernstein just then, and it pointed out something really interesting, which is that we haven't really seen a drastic flattening in the European yield curve yet, whereas we've actually seen that in the U.S. So that would seem to indicate that, for whatever reason, in terms of the yield curve, the expectations are not that pessimistic just yet.
Is the yield curve a real reflection of reality here in Europe, given the involvement of the ECB at such a high level?
Yeah, I mean, that is a great point because, I guess in the U.S. what we've seen is, people were expecting the Fed to raise, and so the short end kind of went up, but the long end didn't go up as much, and hence there was a lot of flattening. But in Europe, we kind of haven't seen that yet. And maybe some of that has to do with, different expectations for the ECB.
Clearly, Karen, when we came into this year, we thought the picture was going to look a lot different. And one of the consensus calls was Europe over U.S., those value trades over growth. Does this situation present potentially now the reverse of that, where Europe may underperform and growth actually could play a role again?
Right now, but I do think we need to be careful about getting whipsawed here, because if there is some degree of resolution or at least a moderate de-escalation, we're going to be in a position where many of those earlier narratives could actually be accelerated. We've got more inflationary pressure into the system. We've potentially got the central banks having to therefore tighten by more if the recovery then gets going, and this is not a recession and a growth risk. And it was really the rates story that was driving that rotation. It was the prospect of higher interest rates, steeper curves, supporting the financials, perhaps being at detriment to some of the growthier, the tech areas of the market where rising rates have not proved so supported. There's been headwinds to those valuations. So I think we should be really careful about today, given the moves that we've already seen, getting whipsawed by actually shifting positions materially, pro-US over Europe, for example, because if we do get to a point in 6 weeks, 2 months' time, we could be right back to discussing, all of the central banks having to catch up.
But how much damage could still be done, Karen? Let's go back to the starting question. Are we realistically pricing the risk of what is happening here? Are markets functioning properly as a balancing mechanism, risk and reward? We have so much uncertainty. It strikes me as that is incredibly difficult at the moment. How much damage can be done between now and then? What's the strategy between now and then in terms of managing a portfolio? Do you just sit tight? Do you just not do anything? Or do you actively have to reposition around this?
You want more moderate risk position, absolutely. I mean, as we say, the beginning narrative was these economies are so strong, the central banks are behind the curve. You didn't want government bonds in that environment. You wanted to be heavily overweight equities and short government bonds. That's not where you want to be today. You definitely want a more moderate position. You want to be thinking about your ballast. You want to be thinking about dollar, gold, treasuries at the moment. For all the while central banks are doing what I suspect, which is offering supportive comments to supporting gold, they are going to prove the ballast. So you definitely want to be thinking, but I just think given the moves that have already happened, if you were to today think about, okay, well, I was positioned pro-Europe and underweight the US, switching today at today's prices may not then be the right thing, given the prospects of that return of the earlier narrative of inflation and rising rates, in which case, and as I say, that rotation was very much about tech financials, value growth, and that was what was driving the regional rotation.
Well, and obviously part of the rotation as well is about relative earnings performance, Justina. And I was reading out of Citigroup earlier, net earnings revisions are actually negative now for the first time since September 2020. Is this market prepared for a potential rollover as well in corporate profits and that support going away?
Right. I think we really have to think about, the shock that's come from this invasion, because on one hand, you have companies whose input prices might depend on commodities. And on the other, for a lot of consumer discretionary companies, I mean, the hit to consumer spending really could be a hit to that bottom line. And that's why we're kind of seeing valuations come down so rapidly already.
Yeah, one area that we're certainly not seeing profitability proving to be a problem is the energy sector. Karen, do you think ESG is stopping people investing in the energy sector right now? It is having a huge impact on people's performance, portfolio managers' performance. Do you think that is a factor at the moment? And to your earlier point about has the move already happened, would it be dangerous at this point, given the potential for huge amounts of volatility going forward, to invest in the energy sector?
Yeah, I mean, the two different questions there. I mean, let's put ESG aside for just one moment and just think we do have to be very careful when we get to very elevated commodity prices and energy stocks have done terribly well. We have to remember that at some point, high energy prices themselves destroy their own demand. And therefore, as recession risks rise, that's why you tend to see in historical cycles, big pickup in energy prices, but then big declines. So as we get higher, 130 now, I think actually allocating more to energy doesn't look an obvious trade to me. You want to be thinking, as you're talking about, that demand destruction really becoming the dominant theme. I think on the broader ESG front, to me, the one thing we can say with absolute conviction today is the momentum behind transitioning our energy policies to different sources and dramatically different energy efficiency. That was a 2050 ambition. It's now a winter 2022 ambition. The game has changed completely. The resources that will be thrown at this will be tremendous. That's an area where I think we should have absolute conviction about deploying capital.
All right, Karen Ward of JP Morgan Asset Management, thank you so much for joining us. And thanks as well to Bloomberg's Justina Lee. And coming up, we're going to talk more about that transition that Karen was just talking about, the implications of an oil embargo on product imports coming from Russia, what that may mean for whether or not that transition needs to be accelerated as well here in the U.S. Of course, we're waiting to hear from President Biden preparing to take the next step in punishing Moscow for the invasion of Ukraine by banning those Russian oil imports. It's a story Bloomberg's Anne-Marie Hordern broke last week. Details next. This is Bloomberg. Not long from now, the Biden administration is set to ban imports of Russian oil and other forms of energy. We are expecting to hear from the president later on this hour. Anne-Marie Hordern was one of the Bloomberg reporters who broke this story, and she joins us now from Washington. So, Anne-Marie, we understand that the UK is moving to make a similar ban on oil imports from Russia. The EU, though, it looks like the administration may be acting, if not in defiance, not in coordination with. Is the Biden administration assuming that the rest of Europe will follow its lead?
Well, at the moment, they've been talking to the European Union, but I spoke to an EU official very early this morning who said Europe's just not there yet. And I don't think the world expects Europe to be there. I mean, if you just look at Germany alone, they are heavily, heavily reliant on Russian fossil fuels. Now, Olaf Scholz said yesterday they want to loosen that dependence on Moscow, but it's not going to happen overnight. So you do see movements in Europe to try to move to renewables, building more LNG facilities, but it just cannot happen right away. But what we do know is that the administration has been consulting their European allies. So while they are making this decision unilaterally without them, and it comes on the heels of Canada, we have reporting that the UK will be next, Europe will not be alongside them in this ban.
AMH, what is going to replace this oil? I'm always surprised at how much the United States does import. Vicky Holler just been talking over the last few minutes, the Oxy CEO, saying that US oil drillers cannot significantly expand output. What fills the gap?
Well, over the weekend, we did have U.S. officials in Venezuela. Potentially, they can fill this gap, especially you look at the grades of crude. What comes from Russia is a very heavy, thick, high sulfur, viscous grade. Potentially, Venezuela could fill that gap. Now, there's an embargo on Venezuelan crude. Venezuela has the most proven oil reserves in the world. Potentially, this is an opening. Then, of course, there's talks of an Iranian nuclear agreement. Hossein Amir-Abdollahian, the foreign minister of Iran, has been very optimistic in Iranian press coming out of Tehran that there could be an agreement. Potentially, Iran could fill some of this. And then, of course, there's the U.S.'s ally in the Gulf. That's the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So far, they have not been willing to act. Potentially, does that change? I would say these are the three countries that could potentially have a little bit more of an immediate impact on the crude market.
Speaking of things that could fill the gap, Anne-Marie, what about renewables? And how does this potentially relate to spending out of Washington? I noticed Jan Hatzius over at Goldman Sachs publishing earlier today. This is part of what he said. He said the odds of some form of renewable legislation passing has risen. The impact on energy prices from recent events and the importance of energy considerations and sanctions discussions could motivate lawmakers on both sides of the Atlantic to accelerate the shift to renewable energy. Anne-Marie, is this in some backwards way a way of the president getting more of his climate agenda and the spending that comes with it through Congress?
It's a great point. I imagine the president, when he takes the podium today at 10:45 a.m., he's set to, that this is what he will lean into. He ran as a climate president. He wanted to transform the grid of America and where and how we heat our homes, fuel our cars, etc. So this would likely be something the administration, and they have already been talking about this, more money towards renewables. And when you looked at his Build Back Better legislation, climate was actually one of the issues that Senator Joe Manchin, who came out and said that that bill was dead, but that he can get on board with some of these climate initiatives. So potentially this could put the impetus on Congress to move more money to some of those renewable agenda.
Great reporting, AMH. Fantastic work. Thank you very much indeed for joining us to update us. Bloomberg's Anne-Marie Hordern joining us out of Washington, D.C. As we've been indicating, President Biden set to announce those actions that Anne-Marie has been discussing. We think that's going to happen later this hour. Time always a little bit flexible when it comes to these sort of events. But when they do happen, when the president speaks, the remarks on Russia that he's going to deliver, we will bring them to you. I just want to update you on some headlines that are coming out right now. The UK is to produce a ban on Russian oil. That will include refined products and crude. So we'll get some more details on that coming out of Whitehall, I would expect, over the last few minutes. You've also got the National Intelligence Director in the United States. He's speaking at a hearing right now, talking about Russian forces are acting with disregard for civilian lives, that Russia is loosening the rules of engagement, Russia encountering serious military shortcomings. You've also got got, and this is another story that's worth referencing, Frans Timmermans of the European Commission. He's the European Green Deal European Vice President. He's holding a press conference right now. He is indicating that actually the EU has no plans to sell debt to finance the energy issues that we are encountering right now. So a number of different headlines breaking at the moment. We'll continue to keep you updated. We'll move towards those presidential comments that are coming up very shortly. In the meantime, let's check in with the Bloomberg First Word News. Here with that, Bloomberg's Radhika Gupta.
Thanks, Guy. The European Union is set to propose a new round of sanctions that would target a total of 14 individuals, including a number of wealthy Russians and their family members. But Bloomberg has learned the measures will stop short of more far-reaching steps like penalizing ports. The EU package being considered also includes cutting off 3 Belarus banks from the SWIFT international payment system. And the price of wheat fluctuated near an all-time high after exceeding levels seen during the global food crisis back in 2008. Traders are assessing the impact of Russia's war in Ukraine that's effectively cut off more than a quarter of the world's wheat exports. Global News 24 hours a day on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Radhika Gupta. This is Bloomberg. Kaylee.
Radhika, thank you. Well, still ahead, we'll talk clean aviation. Fortescue and Airbus are teaming up. We'll talk with the company's chairman of Fortescue, that is Andrew Forrest. This is Bloomberg.
So Frans Timmermans, who is the European Vice President at the European Commission for the European Green Deal, there's a lot of Europeans in there, aren't there, is holding a press conference right now. Some possibility we may get to talk to him a little bit later on. Asked about this Bloomberg report, which we put out a little bit earlier on, talking about the fact the EU is looking at the possibility of using joint debt once again, this time to raise money for financing the energy costs of what is happening with the Ukraine war and the impact on Europe, and then the rearmament story. Timmermans talking about this, basically saying at the moment there are no plans to sell debt to finance this energy story. So what you're seeing now is a reaction in the BTP Bund spread. You're seeing Bund yields coming down a little bit. They were very elevated a little bit earlier on in reaction to this. So hopefully we'll get an opportunity to catch up with Timmermans very, very shortly, Kaylee. We'll see what happens there, but certainly a market reaction to these headlines over the last few minutes.
Just as there was a market reaction to the headlines on the initial Bloomberg report. And of course, this follows the Russian threat to potentially cut off gas flows to Europe. Now, the U.S. and U.K. looking at banning Russian oil imports. We're talk more about the energy implications. The International Energy Agency is ready to recommend another release from emergency oil stockpiles if it's needed. We'll have more of our interview with the director, Fatih Birol, next. This is Bloomberg. We're about an hour into the U.S. trading session. Bloomberg's Abigail Doolittle is watching the moves. Abigail, you got some action in stocks, but a lot more in bonds and commodities.
Much more so in bonds and commodities. And here's the commodity side of it, Kaylee. But up top stocks, some volatility there because, of course, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 earlier higher, now down about 0.7% and 0.9%, respectively, having everything to do with the continued surge in commodities that Kaylee was talking about, in particular oil. Of course, the U.K. banning oil imports from Russia, that hitting, or I should say, sending oil higher, hitting it to the upside. And of course, the expectation, the Bloomberg exclusive earlier, that President Biden expected to announce a U.S. ban on Russian imports of oil as well. So oil higher, stocks lower. It shows sector-wise, too. If we go into the Bloomberg and use the IMAP, we are going to see that most sectors are lower. On bottom, healthcare, information technology, and consumer staples. Now, we are off the lows. At the lows, more sectors were down 1%, but there's one clear winner. That is energy, up 3.9%, heading to another big up year. Of course, the top sector last year up more than 45%, up in a big way. And if we take a look at oil, Guy, it's just incredible. How long can this surge go? Because, of course, oil right now at its highest level since 2008. So you can see over the last last roughly 5 years, oil had sort of flatlined, let's call it. There had been that volatility, of course, in 2020, but it looks like nothing relative to the upside volatility that we have now. Here is a true parabolic uptrend. Take a look at this. It is straight up, as in a needle higher. Physics, a 90-degree angle cannot hold. So at some point, this is going to collapse. But Steve Sosnick over at Interactive Brokers, he makes the great point that markets can stay irrational longer than some investors can stay solvent. So it's hard to know when this will collapse, but that cannot hold, Guy. At some point, we're going to see all of this move back to the downside. Stay tuned for more volatility ahead.
Yeah, where does it come down to, I guess, is the question. Are we going to be in a situation where we're going to have to live with more elevated oil prices going forward? You take a look at the contract table, you look at the curve. We're $100 plus for quite some time in terms of the way that the curve is structured right now. The price of crude, Abigail, looks certainly to be a huge factor going forward from here in terms of the global economy. The Bank of America now warning that we are in what it calls an ugly scenario. Brent potentially could be peaking at $175 a barrel. Think of Abigail's kind of vertical line here. The IEA saying it's ready to recommend that member countries do release more crude from emergency stockpiles if needed. Are we at that point already? Here's what some people on Bloomberg have been saying to us about this story.
The amount of stocks we release as of last week was only 4% of our stock reserves. There is a lot of oil there, and it will be at the disposal of the markets in order to help to stabilize the markets. But I should tell you that I am rather disappointed with the several producing countries who did not take the necessary measures to comfort the market. Those colleagues, those countries who said they are there to stabilize the markets, we have not seen that recently, and I would say this was really disappointing from my perspective.
Yeah, why is the IEA then not pressuring Saudi Arabia more to increase production, or is that happening behind the scenes?
So we are talking with all the countries around the world. We are reminding them that if the markets, the turmoil continues, it is not in the benefit of anybody, as I see now. But it is, of course, up to them to decide. I think the previous colleague you talked with saying that there was not enough spare production capacity. This is not right. There is significant amount of spare production capacity, and one may take some of them, bring it to the markets. And I would also tell you that we are very soon going to come up with some suggestions how to reduce the oil demand in a hurry. What we can do there on the demand side, some regulatory, voluntary measures that the governments can take, the consuming countries, to reduce the demand, in addition to the possible impact of the high oil prices on the demand growth.
That was IEA Executive Director Fatih Birol speaking with Bloomberg's Francine Lacqua earlier. And Guy, while we were listening to that interview, interestingly, we're starting to get some headlines out from the Uniper CEO, Klaus-Dieter Maubach. He's speaking in an interview, and he says that they're following German government guidance to avoid a supply crisis, and Germany has told the company it can buy more Russian gas. And to me, Guy, this gets to the root of the question: is Germany, and then therefore the rest of Europe, going to get on board with a potential embargo of Russian oil and gas, as we're seeing the U.S. and the UK set to make those moves?
You go into the tables of the exposure that European countries have to Russian gas. And places like Bulgaria, it's 100%. Germany's at around 50%. Some of the Scandinavian countries are a little bit higher. Changing that on a dime, really not possible. And yes, there are reserves, and Uniper's talking about that, but we need continued flow of Russian gas into these economies. It's interesting that Gazprom is also out within the last few minutes, or we have had confirmation within the last few minutes that Gazprom has booked extra Yamal link capacity into Germany for Tuesday, i.e. there's more Russian gas, K.L.P, coming into Europe right now. The flow has not stopped. really difficult. We were talking earlier on in the program about the impact that gas flow stoppages would cause to the European economy. We're circa 4% in terms of the numbers that the European Commission is expecting for growth this year. That number would be massively lower. Already is probably going to be massively lower as a result of what is happening. But you cut the gas off, then we may have a much worse situation.
Yeah, absolutely, because while Europe is trying to transition to renewables, it is a transition, and thereby it takes some time.
Yep.
So coming up, we're going to talk more about that. The European Union is warned that it must speed up its green transition so that it can rely less on Russian energy. We'll be talking with the EU Commission First Vice President Frans Timmermans next. This is Bloomberg.
This is Bloomberg Markets. I'm Ritika Gupta, and you're looking at a live shot of the principal room. Coming up, the Pfizer chairman and CEO, Albert Bourla, joins Bloomberg TV at noon New York time. This is Bloomberg. Let's check in on the Bloomberg First Word News. I'm Ritika Gupta. The Iran nuclear talks have been thrown into confusion by a demand from Russia. Moscow wants a U.S. guarantee that sanctions over the invasion of Ukraine won't affect its work with Iran. Last week, diplomats from most sides were saying a deal was just days away. Hong Kong reportedly may drop mass testing as a coronavirus priority. The newspaper Ming Pao says that instead, the priority may be placed on reducing deaths from COVID. According to the report, the potential shift comes after the leader of China's COVID response team visited China. And the London Metal Exchange halted trading in its nickel market after that unprecedented price spike, nickel rising by as much as 250% over the past 2 days alone to hit record highs above $100,000 a ton. That left brokers struggling to pay margin calls against some deeply unprofitable short positions. Global News 24 hours a day on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Ritika Gupta. This is Bloomberg. Guy.
Ritika, thank you very much indeed. Let's get more on that unprecedented spike that we are seeing in the nickel market. Bloomberg's Joe Doe, who covers metals and agriculture for us, joins us now. Joe, do we know when this market is going to reopen? Do we know how long it is going to take to sort out what has happened with this short position, the margin calls that go with it, and whether ultimately they do get paid?
Yeah, I think the short answer is we don't know exactly when this market might open. Earlier today, Javier Blas, one of my colleagues, was saying that his sources were telling him, you know, it could be the exchange for nickel will probably be closed tomorrow. It's uncertain after that. It could extend that long. I mean, we're really in uncharted territory here. I hate to use the words, but that's really what we're talking about. I mean, waking up, at 1 a.m, seeing prices going from 60 to 80 to then $100,000 a ton was unbelievable. And now that the market is trying to unwind and figure out what's going on here, I think that's really the most important thing at the moment.
Well, Joe, actually 1 a.m. is about the time I was waking up, so that was indeed true for me. Obviously, what we're seeing in nickel is pretty detached from the fundamentals here, but for some of the other metals, we have also seen really incredible rallies, and I'm wondering if that is actually more reflective of reality.
Yeah, I mean, on nickel, I think you nailed the point here, which you're hearing from everybody, from analysts to traders. It's not a fundamental move, right? This is a large short squeeze, and we had reporting from my colleagues Alf Song and Jack Farchi, who, according to sources, were saying that this was Tsingshan, the largest nickel producer on the planet. They had a massive number of short positions that they're trying to cover. With other metals, this is very much getting back to the fundamental play. When Russia is no longer, a normal actor in the world for financial markets, the questions become, well, can we continue to do business with them? I mean, they are a massive producer of nickel. They are a massive producer of aluminum. They are in every bit of this. And for traders right now trying to determine if business that they've just expected to flow through Russia, like literally flow through Russia, can no longer be a part of their plan. I mean, that's really what you've been seeing now for the past 2 weeks.
Joe, commodities are often used as collateral Is the market functioning properly? Is there a collateral problem here? Some of these assets are very hard to value right now, and their use as collateral therefore needs to be questioned. Is there a liquidity problem that could ultimately flow from this?
I think this is a real discussion happening in various circles throughout the market globally. I think in nickel, obviously, this is the big question, right? I mean, nickel's just like in a totally different stratosphere. I mean, I was talking to one aluminum trader just yesterday who said, listen, with aluminum, we've seen it go to a record, but a lot of people had at least put on some hedges that a crisis could happen. Maybe not to this level, but they expected maybe something bad could happen. So I think, you know, again, to be clear, when you're talking about liquidity and market, this is some very serious stuff. Yeah. I think with nickel, we obviously have a problem that needs to be sorted out. With many of the other metals, I'm not so sure that we're quite there. And I don't know if that's something that the traders are as worried about.
Well, Joe, this may be an unfair question, but how was the LME not prepared for this kind of scenario? I mean, literally, how did this happen?
Yeah, I think a lot more reporting is going to have to be done to figure out you know, really what was what behind all of this. I mean, people have been referring to the tin scenario that happened back in the 1980s, which was kind of the LME's darkest moment. You know, I think there's just there's so little clarity as to what happened and why it happened so quickly. And to finally get down to, you know, how the LME acted or did not act, I think there's more to see to come on that one.
Joe, really interesting reporting. We've been all glued to this story over the last 24 hours. Bloomberg's Joe Doe, thank you very much indeed. This is Bloomberg. So let's talk about the energy transition from a different perspective. Clearly, high energy costs are forcing a rethink of a number of different strategies moving forward in terms of energy transitions. Fortescue, the mining giant, and Airbus, the aviation giant, teaming up to help decarbonize aviation. The companies have announced today that they'll be working together on a plan to use green hydrogen-based aircraft. The plan to be in place by 2035. Joining us now is Andrew Forrest, Fortescue Metals Group Chairman. Andrew, thank you very much indeed for your time today. The events of the last few days have in many ways changed a lot of people's perception of the energy transition. Natural gas prices in Europe going through the roof. We're seeing metals prices going through the roof as well. We've just been talking about what's been happening in the nickel market. How much does a plan like the one you've proposed today continue to stack up as a result of the shifting prices that we're seeing for these key components that are going to go into this energy transition?
That's a great question. Green hydrogen, green ammonia, green electricity was really competitive before, but there was resistance. We're finding that resistance now falling away as everybody now understands we have to get off fossil fuel. We have to become energy independent. In Europe or North America or Australia, you have the opportunity now to become fully energy independent because you have green energy on your doorstep, over your head, all around you. Now's the time to tap it.
Okay, Mr. Forrest, and that's obviously a very admirable goal. But at the same time, when it comes to green hydrogen in particular, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of capital in order to produce it. I've read estimates that an $11 trillion investment in production and storage worldwide would be needed through 2050, and more electricity than the world generates now to have green hydrogen meet a quarter of the world's energy needs. Do we literally have enough energy to produce this alternative form of energy?
Yeah, so we need to break through that thinking. Green energy is easily the cheapest and getting much cheaper form of electricity or of energy than the world has ever seen. So we're going to be able to produce way more energy than we ever have in the past, and we're going to do it without a molecule of carbon or its big ugly brother, methane, into the atmosphere. These are great points you're making, but put it in the frame that the abundance of energy, which is green and commercial, is thousands of times more than humanity will ever need.
But in order to get there, and in order to get there quickly, Andrew, we are going to have to build a lot of wind turbines. We're going to have to do a lot of things that are going to be incredibly expensive. the price tag for producing this energy is going up and up and up. Ultimately, once built, the energy is very, very cheap and has a very low carbon footprint. But to get to that point appears day by day to becoming more and more expensive. I listened to the Vestas CEO talking about the input cost issues that he's facing in terms of building wind turbines. The problems are mounting. Are the timelines and the cost estimates currently realistic?
Well, look, I could not more virulently disagree. If you're looking at time and money, then I can tell you green energy is so much simpler than building a great oil and gas refinery or trying to put in a nuclear power plant. Hey, I'd rather put in a few solar panels and wind turbines than those honking great smelly things. We're getting approvals fast. We're getting capital fast. And just think of this. We're one company. We've committed to 15 million tonnes of green hydrogen by 2030. That would take out all of Germany's reliance on Russia today. We've started work on this 2 years ago. We're full steam ahead and we're just one company.
Yeah, obviously that partnership with Airbus really focused on research and development. I'd want to get to the heart of what Fortescue's original business was, though, and that was metals. We were just talking about what we saw with nickel today, the LME actually having to close the market due to that short squeeze. Obviously, those prices going up dramatically. Nickel is crucial when we think about electric vehicles, when we think about lithium-ion batteries. How does the metal supply factor into the ability of this green transition and maybe the inability to accelerate it at the current moment?
Recycling. We have in Fortescue Future Industries, we're a wholly owned part of Fortescue Metals Group, as you pointed out. We're already Australia's top performing company for shareholder returns by several times in the last 20 years. We're going to continue that energy, that talent, that growth. We're putting it all into renewable energy. We will be the world's first fully integrated resources and renewable energy company. So when you're talking lithium, when you're talking iron, when you're talking nickel, we expect to be a one-stop shop for that and your hydrogen and your ammonia and your green electricity. So we don't see it as the challenge you do. We have these exploration targets, we have these projects, and we're just getting on with it. We will be able to meet the world demand. Yes, commodities go up and down in price, but consistency of supply just continues to grow on a very solid path, and we'll be helping that path along strongly.
Andrew, on a day like today, I'm really happy to hear your optimism, because certainly we are in need of such optimism. Andrew Forrest, Fortescue Metals Group Chairman. Sir, thank you very much indeed for your time. Let's talk a little bit about what is happening over the next few minutes. In theory, we should currently be listening to President Biden talking about an energy embargo on Russia. I suspect that the president will be speaking probably in the next hour. The EU, though, is not going along with the US and to a certain extent the UK's decision to limit Russian energy supplies into its economy. Let's talk a little bit about that right now. And the plans maybe to lessen the impact of Russian energy into Europe. Frans Timmermans joins us from the European Commission. He's effectively in charge of the European Green Deal. He's a European Vice President at the Commission. Commissioner, thank you very much indeed for taking some time to talk with us. I know you've had an incredibly busy day. In the next few minutes, President Biden is going to announce a ban on Russian energy into the US economy. Is the EU in a position to be able to replicate such a ban? Would such a ban be possible?
I have just announced in the last hour that we will reduce our gas imports from Russia by 2/3 before the end of this year. So I think that's a substantial contribution to increasing our energy sovereignty. We will still be looking into the oil markets. That is something that's still on the table, the possibility of sanctions there. This is something that will be discussed by our leaders next Thursday and Friday in Versailles near Paris. Nothing is off the table, but we're not taking the same decision as President Biden apparently is taking today. But we have announced today that we will reduce our natural gas imports by 2/3 before the end of this year.
I'm wondering about the funding to do so, Mr. Timmermans. You said earlier when asked about the Bloomberg report about potential joint debt issuance from the European Union to finance energy and defense, you said that the EU has no plans to do so, to sell debt to finance energy. How then do you make this transition and shift away from that dependency on Russia?
First of all, a lot of what we're doing is already in our plans that we've presented in our recovery and resilience plans that we've discussed with our member states. But I'm sure that our leaders will come back to the issue of financing also next Thursday and Friday, because it's clear to me that this enhanced energy transition that we will now be going through, the need to revisit some strategic choices we need to make. You know, the world has changed on the 24th of February, and we need to bear the consequences of that, and that will also have financial consequences. But this is something typically for our leaders to discuss later this week.
So you are not saying that this is off the table. It potentially could be discussed, some sort of joint financing to deal with the current energy crisis that Europe is facing could potentially be discussed in Versailles. You're not saying that that is not going to happen.
Well, it depends on what the French presidency will bring to the table. But let me be very clear. We don't have the luxury anymore to say that anything's off the table as of the 24th of February. We're confronted with a Russian leader who has invaded a neighboring country, a democratic country, a country that shares our values. This is a threat to our collective security, and you know, I'm really happy that we've found such common ground with our transatlantic allies, and that we've been working. You know, Putin tried for 20 years to create division in Europe, to create division between the US and Europe, and he's failed completely. We're more united than ever before, and which also means that we don't have the luxury to say that some issues would be off the table. We need to be able to confront everything, and there should be no taboos, also in terms of finances.
Okay, so nothing is off the table. Let's talk about realistic timelines for European energy independence, at least from Russia. When do you think you could reach that in entirety?
Well, two-thirds less gas is already quite something by the end of this year. And in the years after that, we will step-by-step reduce our gas imports from Russia to zero. But also we have to watch very carefully what's going to happen in Russia. Are they going to change their stance? Are they going to return or come to the same values we share? I don't know. It doesn't look very promising. It looks like we're set for a long period of also ideological confrontation. And to face that period, we need to be more resilient. And the only way to become more resilient in the energy sector is by producing your own energy. And the only energy we can produce ourselves in Europe, basically, is renewable energy. Solar, wind, biogas. That's where we need to invest in now, and rapidly.
Frans Timmermans, does this mean that European consumers, European industry will, in the short to medium term, be paying higher prices for energy? And is that a price that you think is worth paying?
Well, I think there's always a price worth paying for liberty, for freedom and democracy. And I think there is a huge understanding with our citizens that now we're defending our basic freedoms and we're defending that collectively with the United States and Canada. And I believe we need to make sure that we increase the resilience of our industry. There will be a cost of that, but I think that's an investment worth making. And at the end of the day, you know, there is no cheaper energy than renewable energy. This is absolutely, hands down, the cheapest energy humanity has ever had. And you were saying earlier in the previous conversation that you need massive investment. We've never heard anybody complain about the massive investment that's still ongoing in fossil fuels. Only part of that level of investment will get us to energy sovereignty in Europe through renewable energy. So I think we need to get cracking with this, and we need to move on very rapidly.
The clock certainly is ticking, and I know it's ticking for you, so thank you for giving us some of your valuable time. Frans Timmermans, EU Commission First Vice President, appreciate it. Bloomberg European Close is next.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Without further ado this lunchtime, let's get straight to the Chelsea takeover situation. There's been significant developments today in the race to buy the club from Roman Abramovich. To bring us up to speed, as you can see, Chief Reporter K.L.P Solokal is here. K.L.P, let's start with American interest then, and a formal offer from the US businessman Todd Boehly and Swiss billionaire Hans-Jörg Weiss. Tell us about this one.
Yes, they are the first people to put in a bid for Chelsea, but the bid is not at the level that I think Roman Abramovich was asking for. He wants about £3 billion. I think most people think that valuation is too high, but Todd Boehly especially is somebody who has tried to buy Chelsea in the past. About 4 years ago, he offered £2.2 billion for Chelsea. He didn't succeed in buying the club at that time, but of course this time around Roman Abramovich wants to sell. So they're the first people who've shown their hand. There is lots of other interest in America. That's where most of the interest is coming from. For instance, the Ricketts family, who own the Chicago Cubs. They're interested as well. Also, Josh Harris, who owns the Philadelphia 76ers basketball team in the States. He also co-owns a minority stake in Crystal Palace. So that would complicate him being involved in a consortium to buy Chelsea. And there's also interest reportedly from the former US ambassador to the United Kingdom, a man called Woody Johnson, who's not commenting on the moment not commenting on reports linking him with a move for Chelsea. He owns the New York Jets NFL team. He was the ambassador to the UK for 4 years, lived in London. He went to see Chelsea quite a lot, so he's another name in the frame. Most of the interest at the moment coming from the US. There is some interest in Europe as well.
Okay. Closer to home, though, you've been speaking with Nick Candy's representatives this morning. What did they have to say?
Well, Nick Candy is a luxury property developer. He's made a lot of money along with his brother developing properties in central London, sort of mega £1 million properties. He also happens to be a Chelsea supporter, Chelsea season ticket holder, and he has confirmed that he is trying to put a consortium together to buy Chelsea. His spokesperson has provided a quote for us, which was also in a few newspapers this morning. And he says, Mr. Candy is actively exploring a number of options for a potential bid for Chelsea. Any bid would be made in conjunction with another party, and we have serious interest from several international partners. Mr. Candy has a huge affinity with Chelsea. He's been watching matches at Stamford Bridge since the age of 4. The club deserves a world-class stadium and infrastructure, and Mr. Candy's unique expertise and background in real estate would be a hugely valuable asset to delivering this vision. Of course, what they're talking about there is the fact that it's generally accepted that Stamford Bridge needs to be redeveloped, or Chelsea need to build a new stadium. It was something that Roman Abramovich was considering doing until he dropped his plans in 2018. And of course, Nick Candy is somebody who's made all his money from property in central London. So you would think that he would be well placed to oversee the redevelopment of Stamford Bridge or the building of a new stadium. I don't think on his own forming a consortium with other interested parties.
Okay. So quite a lot of information I am processing, K.L.P, that you've just told me there. Okay. How does this all actually work? Is Chelsea an enticing proposition? I mean, I know they're world and European champions, but football is an expensive business. And how do these individuals move from interest to bids to buying?
Well, look, the sale is being marketed by investment bank, the Rain Group. They've been appointed by Roman Abramovich to handle the sale. And if you want to buy Chelsea, you contact them or they contact you. They've been contacting people who they know are interested in buying Premier League clubs. What then you need to do is sign a non-disclosure agreement, show that you have proof of funds to be able to afford to buy Chelsea. And then at that stage, you will be given access to financial information about Chelsea, so you know what you will be buying. And as far as Rain are concerned, they want opening offers to be in by the 15th of March, which is next Tuesday. Now, as far as the price is concerned, £3 billion in today's climate is a lot of money, and it's far more than anyone has ever paid for a football club anywhere in the world. I suppose the other issue you've got is a lot of people who buy football clubs buy it as what they like to call a project. So they like to buy something, spend some money on it, make it even more successful. The problem you've got with Chelsea is they're already very, very successful. They're the world and European champions. And also at £3 billion, and then probably another £1 billion to redevelop the stadium or build a new stadium, that is a £4 billion investment. And how much is that going to be worth in the future? What is your return on that investment going to be? By way of comparison, for instance, Newcastle United was sold for £300 million. And the people who bought that club think if we can sort this out, throw some money at it, develop the club, buy better players, then in a few years' time, we could be worth billions. But I think Chelsea at £3 billion plus the £1 billion that it would take to redevelop the stadium looks very, very expensive. And I'd be very surprised if Roman Abramovich got the £3 billion that he was asking for.
Okay, we watch them.
Audio Jungle.
For the backdoor cut. This is what I think Ottawa has to do. I think they have to get Sonano touches early and often in this ball game. Terry Moore challenge, sir. The way to get on the basketball court is to defend. Be a defensive stopper for our team. Well, you can't go under a screen. And even in the first game of this tournament against Rutgers, Mackenzie Holmes, she had 11 points, and she didn't quite look like the Mackenzie Holmes that Sonano gets another 2. She uses her lower body. She waits till the ball gets right above her head. Then she goes to get it. That timing is so important.
You may remember Megan Gustafson.
Grady leading his team in blocks, had a really good game in their loss to Maryland earlier this year. Goldberry, that's the first 3 for the Hoosiers today. And Indiana playing in its first final in 20 years. They won it all 20 years ago. Third time in 4 years Iowa's been in the final. They won it in 2019. Behind the back, Berger to Patberg. Setting up for Berger. Over Martin. Indiana's on fire in the third quarter. 28 points per game with 10 so far. It's not scored here in the third. Sonano muscles it up and gets fouled. Yesterday against Ohio State, leading her team. That's why Gabby Marshall gets a lot of playing time. Not going to score a lot of points, but a really good perimeter defender. Warnock's been rather quiet. That was loud. Rebound by Martin, and here's Clark in the open floor. Hounded by Patberg. Splits the defense and scores. Oh, that was a tough two right there. Sonano has never taken a three in her career, by the way. Passed it up to Martin. Nice off glass.
Kate Martin for Iowa. Lisa Bluter describes her as the absolute glue for the Hawkeyes.
Clark works the baseline, and Mackenzie Holmes swatted it. Kept in play by Moore. McNeil. Patberg missed. And what a heady finish to go to the other side. Mackenzie Holmes was right behind her. She knew it. She felt it. But that's doing her work early. She didn't have to dribble the basketball. She was right there as Carvalho Hillary knocks down a three. She's missed 6 of her 7 shots and only has a couple of assists. Martin one-on-one. Nice move around Berger. Terrific perimeter defender, has not scored today. Only had 1 bucket yesterday. Sonano can't stop that. Wants to be a coach. She would be terrific. But right now her team needs points. That'll help. They're all going to go home and wait for Selection Sunday. Caitlin Clark and the Hawkeyes are Big Ten tournament champions.
Gearheads know that some projects need so many parts, it feels like you need a whole storage unit just to store them. That's what eBay Motors' 122 million parts are for. Think of it as your virtual parts garage. They've always got the right fitment at the right prices. Use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
This is the DJV Download. I'm Doug.
I'm Jen. And I'm Victoria.
This podcast made possible in part by Calitrin, the safe way to lose weight, Prevagen, keeping your brain healthy, and MyPillow, guaranteed the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own. All right, so let's get to some of these names that are important. The WNBA star who's been in jail. Where is she being kept? Does the picture show that, Jay?
Well, she was taken into custody at an airport near Moscow last month, and she's 31 years old. Brittany Griner with the Phoenix Mercury, WNBA player, had not been seen since she was detained for a drug dog alerted to an oil pen, a vape pen with pot, allegedly.
So this is
in
all
her
the
carry-on.
Russians have to do with what's going on. They're grabbing people at the airport because they have an EpiPen? Huh.
No, it's not an it's EpiPen. It's a vape pen, Doug. It's pot. weed.
Well,
With marijuana,
okay,
yes.
so, but they still, I go back to the same question. They have nothing better to do than do that?
it's
Russia. She can get up to 10 years in prison for this.
No, but
if she's convicted,
I'm saying you'd think that these people had more to do than to chase people around at the airport.
here's something that
She's
another part of the
also
conversation.
6'10", so she stood out, and they identified her as a WNBA star.
And this is a high-profile American prisoner that could be She could be used as a pawn or a bargaining chip for Putin. So it's kind of like there's clearly other things going on in this situation.
If she even had the vape on her own, that's another thing.
Yeah.
We don't even know if it was planted.
Allegedly, it's still a word that's being used over this whole thing. And U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham said that the State Department is trying to do everything in their power to get her back home to the States.
All right, so here's some Gigi. It's Gigi, right? Hadid?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Gigi Hadid. She had said that she's going to be donating all of her Paris Fashion Week earnings to Ukrainian relief, as well as continuing support to those experiencing the same in Palestine. And a lot of people are coming at her saying that she is contributing to a false equivalent, and that doesn't help. It's a false and dangerous narrative, saying actress Emmanuel Shariki said she's fanning the flames of anti-Semitism, where other people are backing Gigi up and saying, they're commending her for bringing Palestine into the conversation even to begin with.
There's this whole notion. I mean, she's Palestinian. Her father's Palestinian. There's this whole notion that, like, if you support Palestine, you're an anti-Semite. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Two things can be true at once.
Who cares what she says? It would be my response to all of that.
A lot of people do, Doug.
I understand. I don't. We have 168 hours in every week, and how you use it is important. If you have a lot of free time, terrific. I don't know what that, and I say this because I'm not complaining. I love my life. It's a very busy time for me, as most of my life has been. I guess I grew up around people. My father was a producer. He always was producing and always wanted people to be busy because that's how he grew up. And I'm sure that's in part what influenced me. But if you look at my chart, it is all about working, contributing, thinking about stuff. We have an infinite number of things we can do with our life. Hopefully you feel like you've made the important choices, the right choices. I hope you have. Hope you feel that way anyway. And this is a choice, too, spending time with us here on the DJV program. The Russians and what they're, what they know. We were talking about this earlier, and it's kind of, it piqued my interest, Victoria, when we were talking about the hackers and what they have done to make more information available versus the propaganda programming that is around, and whether or not they are disrupting the Russian television broadcasts enough that people will pay attention. You said something that I didn't know, or I guess I hadn't paid attention, that I thought it was much lower than 70%. I think you said that 70% of the people in Russia, I don't know where this number comes from, but I've always believed you.
I've seen multiple sources reporting that 70% of the people in Russia believe Putin's propaganda, that they are fighting, that they are saving Ukraine from Nazis. And I mean, it's just,
and even if they didn't,
they're
not gonna tell pollsters that they don't believe Putin anyway, because
they don't know what the source of it is.
So of course, I mean, it's kind of like saying Putin was reelected with 90% of the vote. Right. Right. Who's gonna vote against him?
So what are they doing with all the luxury assets? The oligarchs. There's a huge super yacht that is anchored in Italy someplace. And the captain is a 459-foot super yacht. That's a football field and a half. All right. So when you think about how big this thing is, you've probably all seen pictures of it anyway.
It's like a cruise ship,
ocean liner. It's like an ocean liner. Who's got $500 million to buy one of these things? And apparently they're all over the place. And the German North Sea ports are now filling up with some of these
they're escaping all of wherever they can down to the Caribbean. They're trying to park in in the Mediterranean. They're just trying to find any place that isn't going to just seize their assets. And that's what France is trying to. That's what France is doing already. They're seizing these yachts at their various ports.
This marina is in the Tuscany. This is the most expensive super yacht, the newest. It's called the Scheherazade. And so apparently this is the first number I saw was $500 million. This one now I'm looking at, it says cost $700 million, has 2 helicopter decks, has satellite domes all over it. The photos that were supplied by the police over there and a former crew member, there's a swimming pool with a retractable cover. There's a dance floor. There's a fully equipped gym, gold-plated fixtures in the bathroom. Sounds like something Trump would float around in. This is there are 14 yachts, that's it, in the world that are this big. That's it. And apparently they can't identify who the owner is. Oh, duh.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, sure. I mean, that's another part.
It could belong to Putin. That's what they're saying. Some speculation is that it's Putin's boat. So
could be. I mean, that's it's tough when you've got like shell corporations and you've got all kinds of clandestine setups for business and for investments, and there's a whole it's not easy to just identify it's like here you hand over your driver's license and Mr. Putin owns this mega yacht. It's going to be hard.
So there's another guy. The next biggest one this is a $600 million yacht. that belongs to Roman Abramovich, I believe is how you pronounce his name.
He's Roman Abramovich. Yeah, he's the guy who owns the soccer team. I think he owns Chelsea, one of the big soccer teams in the UK.
He owned the
he's
Mexican
selling
soccer team. You don't know
No,
the Mexican
maybe he does, but I know he owns Chelsea. That's the big one. So he's going. I think he had to divest. But he's very anti-Putin. So he's one of the rare ones who's been public about it.
He's the one who put up the $1 million, I think.
Oh, well, that would make sense. Yeah, that would make sense. I still can't believe he only put up $1 million. Like, who's going to try to kill Putin for $1 million?
In Russia, that'd be a lot of money now.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so we have a lot of this. Well, it's back and
yacht
forth
talk.
and up and
That's
down.
our yacht report.
All right, yacht talk. It's supposed to yacht. What is the
yacht rock?
Yacht rock.
Yacht rock. That's it. Yacht rock. Yacht rock. So let's talk about something practical as we grouse about the cost of gasoline and oil and diesel fuel. The AAA and there are other travel outfits as well, helping the people that belong to their group. I happen to have belonged to AAA for quite a long time. I find it comes in handy from time to time, although most of the time, if I have a problem, it's in a truck, and they won't tow a truck. But I've given membership to my children just because I think it's a good thing for them to have if they have one of the kids in the car with them. Anyway, tips to consumers that include A, check for peak travel times in your area.
Yeah, but you have to say this is tips to save on gas usage. You didn't say that part. You just said tips.
To save on gas. I didn't say that?
Yeah, to save on gas. No, I didn't.
Jay, did I not say that? Come on. You heard me say that, right?
I didn't hear you say that.
We didn't hear it either?
No,
Jennifer,
he doesn't trust me. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you know? No, just kidding.
My ears don't work.
Okay, anyway. Meanwhile, you notice Jennifer was quiet on this. She's not
I'm
saying
here.
anything. I know you're there, but I thought I said
I said I didn't hear it either. No.
Okay. All right.
I heard just tips.
All right. So tips to save on gas usage from AAA,
which helps.
Yeah. How do you do this in Los Angeles is the question, or Boston, or any other place. Now that COVID is over, everybody's back in their cars again, and they're driving and they sit in traffic. I did this all weekend in Los Angeles, and if I'm driving around here, even in my community, after 2 o'clock in the afternoon when schools get out, forget it.
Those buses? Oh, yeah.
Well, they slow everything down.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. If you can avoid sitting in traffic, good luck to you on that one. Some of these are not too practical. Slow down and drive the speed limit. Nobody's driving the speed limit. Come on.
Yeah, but it is kind of interesting because I didn't know that the aerodynamic drag over 50 miles per hour, like it's a significant thing. So if you stay under 50, then your fuel economy goes way up. I did not know that.
The newer cars have those automatic idle off.
Yeah, I have that.
And so when you stop, and this is interesting because if the car's off for less than 60 seconds, when you start it back up, it uses more gas than if you had let it idle. So the key here is a minute or so. If you're in traffic and you're just sitting for more than a minute, it does help a little to not let the car idle.
It's half a gallon of gas per hour is what idling does. That's
idle
a
uses
lot.
A lot of gas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I didn't know it was that much. So don't
So
idle.
this is a lesson from the airlines. Get rid of the extra weight in your car. That's what they've done with planes. So now your turn to do it with your vehicle for more fuel efficiency. Imagine what the cost is.
Yeah, for me, it's like I've got to get rid of a whole box of clothing that's been sitting in the car on its way to Goodwill for 3 months. So
nice
I'm taking
going,
that out of the car.
Nice going. It probably doesn't weigh more than 10 or 15 pounds, but listen, every little bit helps apparently.
Clothing can be expensive if you, or not expensive.
Heavy?
It can be expensive too, but heavy.
Yeah,
depending on how much you shove in the box. I have
Well, that'll
tons
be
of
something
that.
else. It'll be like everything else. It'll go, well, the prices are going up on all of this stuff, yada, 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 yada. So here's another one. The tires. This is, of all the tips that are here, I think this is the most important. Low tire pressure does reduce fuel efficiency. I know that is a fact. And the tires wear out faster, all of that stuff. So look, there's on the side of the door on the car, there will be tire pressure recommendations for the front tires and for the rear tires. Usually, depending on the size of the car, it's around 36 pounds a PSI for the front and around 42 for the rears. Some of the cars, like my car, when there's a low tire thing, there's a light that comes on that
We've got like a little electronic, like a little screen that pops up and tells you what each tire is, and so, but I don't know what they're supposed to be.
They're supposed to be 36. You're not listening to me again.
I heard you, but that's way off from the numbers that are on our car right now.
Yeah, mine's
new,
about
so
31.
Yeah,
that's where it's supposed to be.
You have you drive an army tank.
It depends on your car, I think. Kind of. But have you ever? I got to ask this question, Victoria. Have you ever put air in your tires?
Oh yeah, I can do that.
You have?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you said you had never pumped gas the other day, so I was
no, I know, because I concentrated on learning how to put air in the tires. I didn't have to worry about learning how to pump
day of gas pumping. But you're also not allowed to pump your own gas in New Jersey.
True.
So
we pump our fists, not our gas. We're not allowed.
All right, don't buy gas on the highway or at the highway exit because it's always 20 cents more, especially in big cities. You've got the new Gas Buddy cards. Most of the gas companies have their reward cards, right? Save 5 cents a gallon, 20.
It's a good time to start using those reward cards for sure.
They all have them. Most of the stores have them. Buy gas on a Monday. It's cheapest on a Monday. And let's see here. I didn't know this. This is something I didn't know. Air conditioners create less drag. Why?
Because the way that new air conditioners, this is not for an old car. This is for new cars. So the new air conditioners, I guess, just create less drag on the engine than if you're driving with the windows down, which obviously would make sense.
Oh,
so
that's windows down.
And the other thing is one of the other add-ons, which I'm surprised they didn't mention, but like you should keep the air circulating on the just on the internal cabin of the car. Like don't let air blow in from the outside because that creates a lot of drag.
If you don't know what it is on your
the recycle arrow button, right? So that just keeps everything internal, and that way you're not creating more drag by letting air blow
Aren't
through
you
the
glad
engine.
we're here to help?
Gearheads know that some projects need so many parts, it feels like you need a whole storage unit just to store them. That's what eBay Motors' 122 million parts are for. Think of it as your virtual parts garage. They've always got the right fitment at the right prices. Use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Time for Jay Kirshner to step up to the microphone or sit up, pull herself up to the mic. I think she's been pulled up to the mic anyway. Jennifer and Victoria and I will sit and listen in awe, Jay, as you go through some of these things and explain
I was going to say, dang.
who it is. I don't know who Tony Hawk is. Ladies are explaining this. You can explain to everybody what his problem is.
Yeah, kind of a big problem. He's a skating legend, and he had an injury recently so severe he is worried that he will never be 100% again. He broke his femur over the weekend. Not sure exactly what went down, but it definitely happened while he was skating. And it's kind of ironic because next month, HBO's Until the Wheels Fall Off documentary on him will drop. And the whole documentary is following the fact that he's in his 50s and he's still skating, and he said that he's going to keep skating until he physically cannot skate anymore.
Is he competing at this age?
No, it's just he just loves skating.
He just shows up at skate parks all the time.
Yeah, he gives
like,
kids
wow, that guy
free
looks like
lessons
Tony
and
Hawk.
advice.
And everyone's like, it is Tony Hawk.
Yeah, all right. Well, we have a good thought for him then. What a shame. 50 some odd. That's tough, though. Breaking your femur like that, very hard to fix.
Hopefully he can make enough of a comeback because it's his passion, and he brings joy to the world with his skating.
Now, we were all yakking about Phil Collins a moment ago off the air, who doesn't play the drums anymore, and you said he had drop foot or something wrong, but there's got to be some other
that was one of the things.
Neurological
He might have a neck issue, maybe. Yeah. That's why he can't
he had
play
a really
drums.
bad neck injury 10 years ago that seems to have spurred a whole lot of other issues.
Really?
I looked it up. He's 71. I wasn't sure how old he was, but yeah, he's 71.
Yeah. All right, so Aaron Rodgers has been the focus of lots of speculation when it comes to his girlfriend, Miss Granola, but apparently now there's something else to talk about with regard to him, right, Jay?
Yeah, kind of a shocking move after he was basically feuding with Green Bay's front office and threatening to leave. He signed a 4-year, $200 million extension with Green Bay. He's going to be staying. He is now the highest paid NFL player of all time. He's going to receive $153 million guaranteed as part of this new deal. Dude's going to be making $50 million per season.
Like Jen said, that's a lot of natural deodorant he could buy for his fiance.
A lot of natural deodorant. Toms of Maine, what's up?
Yeah. And speaking of football, how about Russell Wilson getting traded to Denver? Why did that happen?
Yeah, this is pretty big because he was drafted by the Seahawks and he's going to the Broncos, and the Broncos are actually sending quarterback Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, defensive lineman Shelby Harris, 2 first-round draft picks, 2 second-round draft picks, a 5th-round draft pick, all going to Seattle in exchange for Wilson and a 4th-round pick. So this is a lot of moves going on.
Not a good deal.
Move. No. Keep it moving. Keep it rolling. Rolling. Meanwhile, an actor in Ukraine, 33-year-old Pasha Lee, picked up arms, started shooting at the Russians. Apparently they shot back because they get killed, according to some of the local reports there. Anybody ever seen him, Pasha Lee? I'm looking at his picture.
I don't tend to watch a lot of Ukrainian movies, but yeah.
Well, sometimes
apparently
the Ukrainian actors make it into American movies as bad guys. It wouldn't be the first time that's happened, but his face kind of looks it looks familiar, but at any rate, it just shows you what's going on. People from all stripes are fighting against the damn Russians. So it's great business time for Calitrin. I would think the phones would be ringing off the hook and people would be ordering ad nauseum.
That's right. It'll be 25 years this April, and we've been helping customers lose weight safely and effectively for 25 years. So if you need to lose some weight, you've really got to check it out on our website, toploss.com, because like Doug said, it's so much more than just a weight loss product. I mean, we're not talking about a quick fix fad product. There are no drugs. There are no stimulants. Our number one ingredient is collagen protein. It's got types 1 and 3. That's for the muscle and the joints.
All right, and don't forget the 90/90 special right now. Use the DJV code for free shipping as well. DJV code at toploss.com, and the Get Fit contest. That sounds like it would be kind of fun. Calitrin at toploss.com. Thanks to Elizabeth Miller here, one of the great Calitrin consultants at toploss.com. All right. So, who's getting divorced? This is not a new story, right? Kelly Clarkson getting divorced.
The divorce is finalized now. Yeah, Kelly Clarkson and Brandon Blackstock. A judge had declared them both single back in September, but they still had to iron out everything else. So the divorce has been settled. Kelly gets primary custody of the kids. Brandon, who lives in Montana, will get the kids 1 weekend a month. Montana,
wasn't that the ranch they owned?
Yeah, that Montana ranch. Kelly will keep. Brandon is allowed to live there until June 1st. He must pay her $12,500 a month for rent.
Good.
And if he moves from Montana to a different state, the custody agreement will be reevaluated, as well as the child support he will be receiving, which is over $45,000 a month. He'll also get spousal support of $115,000 a month.
He's getting that?
Yes,
from her?
but that will end January 2024.
He was a cop, right? Wasn't he? Do I remember that?
No. He
he
entertainment manager. He was her manager.
Who married the cop? It was another country singer.
Miranda Lambert.
Okay. She's still with him?
Yep, still married.
Okay. After all these years.
She has never looked happier. She looks
really?
great.
Okay, so that's good. Correct. That's good. Terrific.
Well,
wonderful.
And so that was Miranda Lambert. And then back to Kelly Clarkson. So the judge had also dropped Blackstock from Kelly's name legally, and she never added Clarkson back. So legally, she's still going by Kelly Brand, but she's continuing with the Kelly Clarkson name professionally.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. Why and whom was the recipient? Why were they sent? Who is the recipient of flowers from an unusual source?
Oh, Taylor Swift sent flowers, a really nice bouquet to Avril Lavigne to congratulate her on her 7th studio album called Love Sucks. And Avril was talking about it, how it was just really a stand-up, classy show of support. And it's nice to see women in music supporting other women in music. And Avril Lavigne hopes that there can be a Avril-Taylor Swift collaboration sometime soon. I'm here for that. That sounds amazing.
So this will ring a bell, not with either of you, but with other people who are fans of Tom Jones. Do you even, the two of you, know who Tom Jones is?
He's that dude with the tight pants in Vegas, right?
Right, exactly. Okay. So
who
he was married.
Carlton always danced to on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
He just released a new album, his 40th album, devoted to his former wife who died last year. He'd been married to her for 59 years. He's 80. He's still touring. And apparently this album is going to get some airplay on certain stations. I thought it was kind of sweet. He gives, in memory of his wife, he does an album. I thought that was very sweet, frankly.
I am Robert Strickler. My wife Joyce and I have been married for 53 years. Certainly one of the really important things in my life are our children and our grandchildren. I am essentially a writer. I've been involved in communications in the media. I've been an avid fly fisherman for at least 40 or more years. I've been taking Prevagen on a regular basis for at least 8 years. For me, the greatest benefit over the years has been that Prevagen seems to help me recall things and also think more clearly, have a crisper ability to remember and think through things. And I enthusiastically recommend Prevagen. It has helped me an awful lot.
Prevagen, healthier brain, better life. Robert Strickler is a content contributor for Prevagen and real user, based on a clinical study of subgroups of individuals who are cognitively normal or mildly impaired. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This is the DJV Download. I'm Doug.
I'm Jen. And I'm Victoria.
This podcast made possible in part by Calitrin, the safe way to lose weight, Prevagen, keeping your brain healthy, and My Pillow, guaranteed the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own.
Gearheads know that some projects need so many parts, it feels like you need a whole storage unit just to store them. That's what eBay Motors' 122 million parts are for. Think of it as your virtual parts garage. They've always got the right fitment at the right prices. Use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
COVID Clinic tests everyone. We're best at providing incredible testing that's run by a physician and administered by a healthcare professional. There was a huge need for groups. Employers started sending their people over. So I started saying, if they can't get appointments at the sites and we need more locations, why don't we just go to them? I can go in and I can assess what's happening. There's so many industries that have been impacted, and let's get all that back. COVID Clinic's mission is testing for all. If you need testing, you can get testing. If you need answers, you can get answers.
Hello, people of Earth, and welcome to the Gabbing While Gaming podcast. I'm here with Jester, or Jester1Gamble at Twitch, and we're going to be playing some Mass Effect today, going over some important gaming issues in the gaming community, including Nintendo removing Switch emulations from the Steam Deck off of YouTube. Amazon Luna, is it worth it? I tested it last night. Artisan Builds screws over, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but I think it's Kapaya, the NVIDIA hack. Now, I just met Jester about a week ago. How are you doing, Jester? How long have you been streaming?
It has not been a constant, like weekly stream or monthly stream. I kind of took a 8-month break because I guess I got down or depressed, really, and I just lost all desire to stream.
That's understandable. I mean, everybody gets down occasionally. I know I wasn't down, but I quit gaming for like 10 years just because I decided it wasn't for me at the time.
For 10 years? Oh, wow.
Then I broke both my legs, and I didn't have anything else to do, so I started playing Borderlands 2, and I've been gaming again ever since.
Wow, that's something. Give me a minute here. I need to I'm still trying to figure out how to get this volume down from the game.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I can't hear it.
Well, that doesn't make me feel any better.
What got you into streaming?
What got me into streaming was the fact that I've been living here in Germany for, well, at the time it was 4 years when I started streaming. I didn't have a job. I went from working in America like 40 hours a week, well, over 40 hours a week. I was working probably 80 hours every like 2 weeks. No, not 80 hours. Probably 120 hours every 2 weeks. And I went from doing that almost 7 days a week to where I had no job. And for me, I moved here thinking I can find work without a problem. I'm not going to have any issues. I went into moving into Germany thinking it will be just as easy as like finding work in America. Well, I turned out to be completely wrong, and my wife lets me know that every single time. Um, but basically, I got into streaming to keep my sanity because I was struggling to learn German, and nobody in the town I live in speaks English. So I didn't have anybody to speak to besides my family. And I love video games, and I've always wanted to just show or just basically just play games, and if anybody wanted to watch, they can watch. I found out about Twitch by another, like I was playing Fortnite when I found out about Twitch. Somebody I played with and like my group, he told me he streams. And that's basically how it started. I'm like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. So it's been a long, like a long, difficult road because I didn't have a good mic. I had an okay computer, but I didn't have two monitors and all this. So it was a lot of learning while I go.
I can definitely understand that. I'm still learning. I literally just started streaming because I wanted to do a podcast, and I found I enjoy it. I get to meet new people. It's kind of fun. So I'm enjoying it. Now, what do you primarily stream?
What did you say?
What do you primarily stream? I know that you're a variety streamer, but do you have any games that you prefer?
I try to, like, for me, since I try to stick to a 3-day week, like I try to stream for 3 days during the week. My schedule always changes, but I've when I first started, I just basically streamed whatever I felt like playing at the time. But now I try to stick to 7 Days to Die. Um, I'm currently, since I'm in the Lost Ark Creator Program, I'm streaming Lost Ark. And my third game is typically the New World or Borderlands 3.
Borderlands, there you go. That's my stuff right there.
Well, my friend hooked me up with Borderlands 2, like oh God, I forget. It was like the big collector's pack or whatever. He just gifted it to me when it was on sale on Steam, and I really enjoyed it. I fell in love with Claptrap. And when Borderlands 3 came out, I'm like, I gotta play it. Like, it looked really good. I watched him stream it. I watched other people on YouTube play it, and I'm just like, looks good. And it's the first actual Borderlands I've actually completed.
Now, which one do you like better, 2 or 3?
Well, that's hard because I never really beat Borderlands 2. But as far as I got like halfway through Borderlands 2, it's a toss up. Like for me, I like Flak. I love Flak. I love what you can do with them. So I would have to say I like Borderlands 3 better.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm a bigger fan of Borderlands 2. Now, granted, I put like 100 hours into it when my legs were broken. So I've beat it probably 50 times now, run through every DLC. In Borderlands 3, I haven't even got off the first world.
Well, you haven't even got off of Pandora.
No, I'm still on Pandora. I pick it up, I play it for a little while, and then I'm just like, I'll come back to it. And 2 months later, I come back and I'm like, I'll come back to it.
So well, that's how I was, because when I started playing Borderlands, I picked it up when it was on, I want to say the Steam Summer Sale last year. And I played it for, oh God, I don't know, probably a good 50, 60 hours of just like messing around, because I don't really stick to like the quest. I just kind of run around killing things and just looking for stuff and basically like loot everything I can over and over again, trying to find the best weapons. And I just put it down, and I came back to it after probably 2 months, like you, and just I'm like, I gotta finish it. So I pushed to finish the game, and I finished it, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I really need to actually just sit down and play it. I run into the problem where I have so many games that I need to test to review that I never have time to play the games I want.
Well, I hear that. Definitely understand that one, considering like I have a 3 terabyte hard drive and it's slammed full of games. My Steam library and my Epic Games library is starting to match each other.
You would be shocked if you heard how big my hard drive is.
For what you do, I would assume it's anywhere probably over 8 terabytes or more.
I have a 14 terabyte NAS, 2 computers that have 8 terabytes in them, another computer that has 6 terabytes, another computer that has 2 terabytes.
That's a lot of computers.
And I only have 2 terabytes free.
Well, you have more terabytes free on your computer than I do. I think I've hit the limit on my SSD and my hard drive.
Yeah, that's the problem I ran into too. That's why I decided to go ahead and build a NAS and just put them all in the NAS. That way I can play them all over the house too.
Well, I've got 2 computers. I got one for me, that's my personal computer. Then I built another one for my kids for Christmas, and it was their Christmas gift from me so they can play Minecraft in the living room. And it's turned into Minecraft, Jurassic World, and whatever other games they want to play.
Oh, is it the Jurassic World Evolution?
My son has both of them.
My wife went to visit her parents, and her little sister, who's like 8, showed her Jurassic World Evolution. She's now addicted to that game.
I can't lie. Like, I played the first one, and I enjoyed it. I watched my son play the second one just because I like watching him like do it. There's like, for me, there's games I like playing, and there's games I can sit there and watch. And for me, like Jurassic World Evolution and Evolution 2, I can watch him play it and without even worrying.
Gotcha.
I give him my little 2 cents every once in a while. It's like, hey, well, you should try building it like this.
I wanted to get into some topics here, but out of curiosity, where is your accent from? It almost sounds like a Jersey accent.
Oh my God. I honestly have no idea where my accent's from, considering I was born and raised in Virginia. So I don't know where the accent comes from.
Oh, I mean, that's kind of out east. It's an eastern accent, so.
Well, Virginia, that's like east and right, almost like right in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, you're right there by what?
North
Maryland.
Carolina and Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I drive through Virginia every time I go to Maryland, so that's everything I know about Virginia.
Well, that's like really amusing. I haven't heard anybody say I sound like I'm from Jersey in 7 years.
Okay, so let's get into a topic here. Have you had a chance to try Amazon Luna yet?
Actually, I have not, because it is only available in America.
That would make it incredibly hard.
Yes,
and I'm sure if you could play it with the VPN, it just would not go well because of the speed reduction.
Yeah, that whole thing. That's what I was going to say. Like, the only way I would be able to try it is if I did the VPN thing, the VPN, like websites and stuff. But for me, I'm like, I'll just wait until America like puts it through its paces, and then I can hopefully eventually play it. But I've read like the articles on it because it's something that I'm really interested in, because if I can avoid having to fork out hundreds of dollars on like downloads for my computer, it would be really useful to have, a subscription where I can pay, I don't know, like 10, for me, it would be probably €10, which would be right around the same in America, like 10 USD.
Now,
I think that would be nice, because then I can just have a library of games where I can just access it at any time and play whatever I want.
Do you guys have Game Pass over there by chance?
Yes, we do have the Microsoft Game Pass, but for me, I can't like bring myself to like to pay for it, like to do it, like to actually just subscribe to it, because I'm already a Prime member, and I'm like, well, the Amazon Luna, it can kind of work hand in hand with one another.
Yeah, that's understandable too. I mean, if you're already paying for something, why pay for something else?
Well, exactly. But like, I keep looking, like going back to the Microsoft Game Pass, and I'm like, they've acquired Blizzard. So for me, I'm like, if they add games from Blizzard to the Microsoft Game Pass, I might just consider it.
I will say that I think Game Pass Ultimate is worth it, even if you don't own an Xbox, which sounds weird because that includes Game Pass for Xbox and Game Pass for PC. But the advantage of Ultimate is you have the game streaming too. So you can play like I can load my web browser or a web browser on anything, whether it's Windows, Linux, my cell phone.
Yeah.
And I can play Game Pass games right there on my phone or right there on anything, and they're essentially Xbox console games.
Well, that's awesome.
So
like, I didn't know you can use your phone.
Yeah, you can use your phone. I actually just picked up a controller for my phone for like $15, and hey, buddy. But I picked up a controller for about $15. I really enjoy it. I work doing delivery driving, and there's times where I'm just stuck in my car. So, I just pull out my controller, pull out my cell phone, and start playing some games.
That's awesome. Like, I ended up having a controller. I picked up like dirt cheap from like, we don't have Craigslist here. We have it's eBay, but it's eBay local is what it is. It's just like Craigslist. I ended up picking up a controller that can work on computer, PlayStation, Xbox, and cell phones. But that thing it developed when I was playing Elite Dangerous. I noticed it kind of just, like, I kept having to fight the controller, like the joystick for movement all the time. So if I let go, my ship would just start spinning in a circle. And I'm like, yeah, I think it's time to get rid of the controller.
Do you happen to still have it laying around?
No, it got destroyed. I think I gave it to my son, and it's like ended up in pieces.
Too bad. I could actually tell you how to fix that. There's a setting in Steam to make a dead zone, so it can stop that.
It didn't matter. For me, like, I replaced it with another cheap wired controller.
Well, if it happens again, just let me know. I'll teach you how to set the dead zone in there, because that can make a huge difference.
Yeah,
Almost.
I think I'll end up picking up a flight joystick next time I play Elite Dangerous.
So, but I have had a chance to try Amazon Luna. I played it last night. I played some Devil May Cry. I tried it on both my phone and my computer. Surprisingly, the phone experience was better than the computer. The computer has a significant amount more input lag than the phone.
Really?
Yeah. Now, Amazon does sell their own controller, and their controller works with all game systems too. But it's I'm not going to pay $49.99 for an Amazon controller.
Yeah, I read about that. I'm like, it's $49.99 if you bundled it with Amazon Luna, but if you just flat out buy the controller, you're looking at close to like $80. I'm like, you gotta be joking. Like, granted, they're all saying it has built-in Wi-Fi and everything,
but that only works with Luna.
Exactly, and for me, I'm like, I just getting like the built-in Wi-Fi just so you can play Amazon Luna, like on a control, like from the controller and everything. It doesn't seem worth it. I'm like, I'll take I think it was like 3.3 seconds or milliseconds of latency from a regular controller versus the Amazon Luna controller. I'm like, I'll take the difference. I don't care.
Yeah, I think it's actually, hold on, I have it pulled up in my doc here. It's like 13 to 27 milliseconds or something like that. It's really not that much better. And even having the Amazon controller, what I can say, playing it on my Windows PC, It would still be too much input lag.
For me, like I couldn't see forking out that money because I can go buy an Xbox controller or a PlayStation controller and just use that and deal with it. It's like the same. I look at it as the same thing as using a mouse and a keyboard. Like one mouse might give you better like results than another, but I can't justify spending an additional $30 or more on a mouse that might give me better, like maybe one or two more kills in a game I play. Same with the controller. I'm just like, just give me the regular controller and I'm fine. I will make it work. I will survive.
Well, my name is Dirt Cheap Gaming, so I honestly go with the cheapest stuff I can find. I mean, my monitors that I'm running, I have 2 monitors down here. They're TVs I bought off Craigslist for $20 a piece.
I can't like say anything because my top monitor before I replaced it was a Blaupunk LCD TV. I ended up pulling out of a recycling dumpster at the job I worked for, and it still worked. It did fine, but I finally got rid of it because the power button, like the actual button you push on the side, finally disappeared, and using a pin top to turn on the TV turned into a big problem after like 3 months. I'm like, I gotta get a new TV, well, a new monitor.
Yeah, I would probably get a new one at that point. Anytime you gotta, grab a staple and start straightening it out to turn the TV on. That's not a good experience.
Well, like for me, because I have 2 monitors. I have the one I game on, and above me is the monitor that's just strictly for my OBS when I like stream. But other than that, as like you've guessed from my lovely background, I'm in my bedroom. So for me, like my nighttime is when my kids are in bed, I turn something on my top monitor because I replaced it with a Samsung. Oh Lord, I would tell you exactly what it is if I could freaking remember it. It's like a Samsung monitor, but it actually comes with a controller that I can access Netflix, Prime Video, actual web browser, a whole lot more other crap as well. I picked that up on sale, and I'm like, I love it. I can't complain. It's great.
But should probably get back on topic here.
Yeah,
we're good at getting distracted.
Exactly. What like one thing with the Amazon Luna I was noticing was like they give you the option for 6, not the option, but they give you 6 categories. Would it be categories or channels or game?
They call them channels.
Yeah, for me that's a little weird. I'm like, why would it be a game channel? But anyways,
well, and looking at the probably what I would consider the best priced one for what you get is their Luna Plus. Now, right now it's $5.99.
Yeah,
$5.99. That might be worth it, but on April 1st it goes up to $9.99.
That's the thing. Like I was reading the same article that you are talking about that you sent me, and it's $5.99. So if you get the Luna Plus now at the $5.99, and you end up as of April 1st, if you've already been paying the $5.99, the $5.99, you still pay the $5.99 after April 1st if you have been signed up before April 1st.
See, and at $5.99, it's almost worth it. Once you get to $9.99, I'm going to pay for Game Pass.
Well, yeah, that I definitely understand. Like if you're coming in after April 1st, you're going to pay the basically $10. But like I said, before April 1st, once you've signed up before April 1st, you're paying the $5.90 base. Well, might as well say $6. So it's not bad, but the thing is, like, if you're going in just like as a regular person and not going like for the whole Luna Plus package, then you got to pay for the individual channels. And I think the most expensive one I was reading is, what is it? Ubisoft?
$17.99. Yeah.
Yeah, this is $17.99 for Ubisoft, and for me, I'm like, at that point, I would not do it.
Well, and you don't even need Amazon Luna for that. You can go to ub.com and sign up for Ubisoft.
Exactly.
Ubisoft Plus for $17.99, or if you want to download the games, you can just sign up for the Ubisoft subscription for $15. But for me to have all the games by the same studio, I'm going to get bored. I mean,
exactly.
The thing about Xbox is they own so many game studios. You get your Bethesda titles. I'm trying to think of a couple other ones, but you have multiple games coming out and first day releases coming out. But Amazon Luna, you're not going to get first day releases. Ubisoft Plus, you're only going to get Ubisoft games, and I like some Ubisoft games, but they all tend to be very similar. There's not a lot of variety.
For me, when it comes to Ubisoft, I have Assassin's Creed and Far Cry 5. That's honestly about it. And I never really go much else.
I mean, I have a bunch. I have every Assassin's Creed. I have every Far Cry game. Now, with that being said, I have not played most of these games. I have every Watch Dogs, game released.
For me, the one that caught my eye, the one channel was the Retro channel. Because it didn't really give you much information. Again, granted, the article gave you a whole lot of, a list of games. And I'm like, what does the Retro channel involve? What games are we talking about here? Can I, say I want to relive my childhood and play freaking Mario or Super Mario Brothers from back in the day within the old school Nintendo, or freaking the Super NES games? Can I play Mega Man? Are we talking retro like that? Or
I can almost guarantee anything by Nintendo is not on there.
That's most definite, probably not. But it's when I say think retro, I think old school. I grew up with a Nintendo. I'm sure everybody about our age all grew up with a Nintendo, probably even an Atari at one point in time.
I found a list. Of the games. And it has Pong on there. That's how retro it gets.
Okay, so they're throwing way back into Atari.
Pong, Asteroids.
Oh, God.
I mean, they have King of Fighters 1998, King of Fighters 2002. So all the games look like they're probably 2002 or before.
Okay, so they're not going back to what we know as a childhood.
I think they're going probably before our childhood and after our childhood.
Well, that's the thing. For me, like I said, I had an Atari and a freaking Nintendo. So for me, when I think retro, I think old school freaking turn Atari freaking controller or the little joystick, and I'm like, okay, we can make it work.
I will say there are four things on here that look good to me. One is the Contra Anniversary Collection. I loved Contra when I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But you can pick that up on Steam for literally dirt cheap.
Wait till it's on sale. Pick it up for $1.
Yeah, exactly.
Castlevania Anniversary Collection. Same thing. You can pick it up on Steam, dirt cheap.
Exactly.
1942 and Ghosts and Ghouls. Those are the games on here that stand out to me. As, hey, I played those when I was a kid. But I own all of them on Steam.
Exactly. So you can pick them up dirt cheap on Steam, but now for the younger generation that grew up in the 2000s or hell, even the late 1990s, it might be good for them. But honestly, I couldn't see you got to pay for each channel, right? Unless you get the Luna Plus.
Well, you pay. Well, even if you get the Luna Plus, you still pay for each channel. The Luna Plus is its own channel.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Then, they're just trying to get squeeze you for more money. So in a way, I like what they're trying to bring, but it reminds me of like Amazon Prime Video. If you want to watch a bunch of horror movies, they have their own horror channel, but you have to pay extra for that. And I love horror movies, but I cannot see spending. I forget what the horror channel costs for Prime Video.
I think it's like
$2.99
or something.
Like, I think it's just, in my opinion, it's another way for them to squeeze more money out of you.
Yeah, it's there's a lot with Amazon. A lot of different channels you can get with Amazon Prime, and they're using the same pricing model for Luna. But I think we can agree that our consensus is probably not worth it, at least not at this time.
At the moment, unless they do something to make it really worthwhile, it's honestly, I think it's a waste. I like what they're trying to achieve, but you've got, let's see, you've got Microsoft Game Pass. You can essentially do the same thing with Ubisoft. You can do the same thing. I think NVIDIA has something similar as well.
You can do PS Now for $60 a year.
Exactly. So in a way, it's like, I see what they're trying to do because it's basically cloud gaming, like at the touch of a finger. But they got to do something to make it worthwhile to their future customers, because you're already paying $10 for one thing. Then, oh, I want this channel. That's another $6. Or say you wanted Ubisoft, that's $18. So now you're up to $28. And if you wanted all the channels, God knows how much you'll pay in the end. Plus, can't forget if you buy the controller, so you're already about $100 deep.
Yeah, I mean, I think I look at it like, it could be worth it if they, from what I read somewhere, the Luna Prime's supposed to get up to about 300 games. That might be worth it depending on the games. But
exactly.
At the state it's in right now, it's the next Google Stadia. It's just destined to fail.
Well, Amazon, they'll throw a bunch of money at it. Hopefully it'll end up working.
I mean,
what's up, Dragon? Thank you for stopping in.
They'll probably get it eventually, just because Amazon is not the type to give up.
Well, exactly. They've pushed through and managed to release one decent game. But as of right now, I think a lot of people just need to wait and see what comes of it. I know there's going to be people that it's brand new, I have to have it, so we'll use them as testers.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I might look at it in like a year and see how it's doing, but for right now, I'm just gonna pass.
I've got to pass, because it's only in America.
It will be in Germany eventually.
Well, hopefully one day, like in another 2 years.
So, how much do you know about this Nintendo removing Switch emulation videos on Steam Deck?
I was reading the article, and it just sounds like Nintendo is just doing whatever they can, really, to take the focus away from not the Nintendo Switch, but the Steam Deck is basically, in all honesty, a way better version than a Nintendo Switch. For me, I love Nintendo, so I would consider getting a Nintendo Switch, because there's games that are only on Nintendo. That, example, Zelda. I love Zelda games. I love Smash Brothers. I love Mario. I can't play them on my computer. I can't play them on a PlayStation, on an Xbox. I have to get a Switch. So for them to try to take focus away by removing any picture, video, or throwing up copyright claims for anything on YouTube that's got a Steam Deck and a Nintendo Switch side by side, I understand what they're doing, because they're trying to keep the focus and the profit in their company's pocket, because let's be honest. After the Wii, Nintendo has just kind of gone downhill. To be honest, for me, the last good Nintendo console was the Nintendo 64. I wasn't a fan of the GameCube. So anybody, please forgive me. I'm sorry, I wasn't a fan of GameCube. So Nintendo, I think, is doing everything they can to hold on to any kind of profit margin they can with this whole copyright claims.
I mean, here's the thing. I like Nintendo games. I like their products. I think the Switch is a cool product. I won't buy one because Nintendo is notoriously anti-consumer. And
exactly.
Those anti-consumer practices are what I don't like about Nintendo. They're one of the most innovative companies and come out with things that other game companies don't even imagine. Yet they're stuck 20 years in the past.
I have to agree.
And I mean, that's the biggest problem with Nintendo. The other thing I question about that, they're using copyright to pull these videos down. Now, here's the thing with that. They don't have a copyright on the emulation software. They don't have a copyright on any game not produced by Nintendo. So if they're demonstrating a game like Zelda or Mario that was created by Nintendo, Nintendo does have the copyright. They have every right to use that copyright claim. But if they're playing a game and streaming a game on their Switch by Capcom, if Nintendo's using the copyright system to get that taken down, they're not using it legally.
Well, yeah, I have to agree with that. But like, for like an example, if somebody like playing a Capcom game like Resident Evil, I don't even know if Resident Evil's on the Switch. Like the newer ones, like the Village and the remakes. Since that's Capcom, and I know you can play those games on the Steam Deck. Like if they're comparing like the graphics and everything side by side, and you're posting the video on YouTube, as a YouTuber, you can fight that copyright claim, but it's going to be a strike against you until, I guess, YouTube or whatever platform you're using sides in your favor. But you're going up against Nintendo. It's a very big uphill battle. So, like, the whole thing is, I don't think anybody's fighting back against Nintendo for doing this. I think they're just letting it happen because it's Nintendo. They're realizing you can't fight a big company like this unless you are willing to lose.
Well, and you absolutely can fight them if you know how to do it. What a lot of people don't realize about the copyright system, okay, somebody gives you a copyright claim on a DMCA takedown notice on YouTube. Now, YouTube has to take that down because they're legally required to comply with the DMCA. So what you can do is challenge it. Now, when you challenge it, the concept is that whatever company you're challenging will take a look at it and decide if you're actually violating copyright and then get back. And if you're not violating copyright, they'll be like, okay, put your video back up. Or what I imagine in most case happens with big companies, they're like, we got challenged, no, click. And they challenge it back, essentially. At which point in time, you can challenge it again. They either have to put your video back up or take you to court. Now, I would be perfectly willing to let Nintendo take me to court over a copyright they don't own and then countersue them.
Yeah, I can see that, but a lot of people, it's like once you hit that whole, okay, they're taking me to court kind of thing, a lot of people are going to back off.
Well, right, court's scary, it's stressful.
Yeah, it's going to cost you money, it's stressful, and God knows if by some chance that you lose, God knows what Nintendo, their lawyers will decide to do against you.
But I would do it, and that's not like I have a lot of money or anything. I am about proving points, and that is a point that I truly believe needs to be proven in Nintendo is they don't control everything. Like I said, if it's their game, they published it, they have every right to have it taken down by copyright. it's stupid because it's actually giving them more exposure, which is why most game companies don't do that. There are a couple stupid ones, but yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, I have to agree. Like for me, it's pardon my language. Like it's honestly a dick move on Nintendo's part.
Absolutely.
Because yes, granted, the Steam Deck is, I would say it's it's a great idea. And this is in my opinion, it is basically what was it, a PSP on steroids? Is like the best way to describe it. Because PlayStation brought out a handheld years ago? I think it was the PSP. And the Steam Deck is just it's basically the same thing, just on steroids. It's a small, literally a handheld computer that allows you to play your Steam library on something. Granted, it's got some freaking awesome hardware under it, so I can see why a lot of people would go with the Steam Deck than the Nintendo Switch. But granted, Nintendo, all they got to do is just come out with something that can compete against it. It's not that hard. The technology is out there.
Yeah, but Nintendo only likes to release a product every 15 years.
Oh God, yes.
Actually, I think it's closer to 10, but I'm exaggerating a little bit. But
yeah,
they release products that people like and can sustain them for a long time without a whole lot of adaptability. And even though their systems are weaker than an Xbox or a PlayStation, they don't have the same processing power. They manage to do things that are innovative enough that people still buy them. Now, with the Switch and the Steam Deck, you now have something that looks almost exactly like the Switch, that has the same versatility as a Switch. Nintendo's in trouble until they innovate again. And a Switch Pro is not going to do it.
No. Like, for me, like, I like the concept of the Switch because you can play it at home, you can play it on the go. I like what they did with it. But, like, for me, Nintendo, I think, is looking at more of a market where they're looking at people mainly going to be in their home. Because a lot of people won't really go take their Switch out of the house unless by some chance you're a kid that has to ride the bus for a while. You might take it with you, but even then, in America, there's a chance you're going to get jacked for it, and then you got to deal with your parents. Here, like for me, here in Germany, we don't have school buses here, so you're riding public buses. And like my kids, they got to ride, I think, 15, 20 minutes, give or take, for their bus to get to the school. But they're also waiting on their bus for a good bit too. So I can see the Switch being useful here. But again, you're limiting what games you can play because it's only Nintendo games. Now, with what the Steam Deck offers, they're offering you any game that you can buy on Steam and you can play it. But I think it ultimately needs to come down to its price. And I think last I checked, I think the Nintendo Switch was better on price than the Steam Deck. Also availability right now too.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely better in price. There's no doubt about that. But the Steam Deck does so much more.
Yeah, I understand that. For me, like what would push me to go with the Steam Deck, to be honest, is if I can play all the games that let's use Epic Games as Epic Game Store as a example here, because they have currently, like Tiny Tina's Wonderland is only Epic Game Store available. You can't even buy that game this month on Steam. It just says, well, like you can go to Steam and you can put it on your wish list, but there's no date when it will be available to purchase. So, like for me, it's like, can I play my Epic Game Store games on the Steam Deck? Can I play other games that I know Assassin's Creed, you need Ubisoft, anything that takes Origin, like Mass Effect here. Like, how does all this work with the Steam Deck?
The thing about the Steam Deck is it's an open system. You can install Windows on it and run anything. I mean, a Steam Deck is literally just a small computer.
So basically, it's a cell phone with built-in controllers, minus the everything else the phone can do.
Yeah, I mean, I would consider it more a computer than a cell phone. I mean, it has the USB ports. It has a display out. You can plug it into a regular TV. You could plug in a keyboard and mouse, and you have a full-fledged computer in front of you.
Huh. But what's the price comparison? Last I think I heard it was $300 or something or more.
Oh, more than that. I mean, there's
Is it
three
up there
different
with
models.
PlayStation?
And I wouldn't get the lowest priced one. It's $399 for the 64 gig, but it has slower storage space.
Well, like for me, like the whole thing, when it comes to like the Steam Deck, like you might as well just get the highest gig freaking memory and everything you can get.
And that's what people have been doing. The highest tier one has outsold the other ones by far.
Yeah, I can understand. It's like when PlayStation 3 came out, the original PlayStation 3, we're talking about the Fat Daddy here. It had a 64 gig, I think it was a 64 gig hard drive or something like that. And within a year, the thing's full, depending on how many games you played.
So, but yeah, the back to what we were talking about, I think Nintendo's behavior is reprehensible, is the best word I can use.
I think it's childish, to be honest. You're a company that's been around for so many years, like, and you are anybody that's as old as we are can. If somebody asks, "Oh, do you know Nintendo?" Yes, we know Nintendo. We grew up with them. We've seen what they can do, what they can bring out as a company, and to act as childish as they're doing with these whole remove copyright claims and everything for videos and photos, it's childish.
Suing people for ROMs that they don't even sell anymore. Like, there's no way to play the game unless you have the ROM, because Nintendo's just decided, hey, we don't want this to exist anymore. So people get the ROMs, and then Nintendo goes after them for it.
Exactly.
So that's why I will not do business with Nintendo. I don't want anything to do with them. But I do think that the Switch was a cool idea when it came out.
For me, like, the only reason I would go, like, get anything from Nintendo, like, it would be a Switch. But that would literally be to only play Mario or Zelda, because I love Zelda, and that's about it. But I can't see paying the price that they want for a Nintendo Switch. But that covers roughly half the price for a PlayStation 5 or Xbox.
My wife wants to get one just to play Pokemon.
Oh, God.
I'm like, seriously, you want to spend like $350 to play Pokemon? Yep.
Okay. I can't say anything. I would spend the $350. I can't say I would buy it brand new. I would buy it used, and I mean used. I would scour my local freaking market online and find one that's roughly like €100 or something. I don't care. It doesn't have to be OLED. As long as I can play the new Zelda on it, that's all I would care.
So, yeah. What do you think about this artisan builds thing? Did you hear about that before I told you about it?
I think right before you told me about it, I saw, because I follow Jay's 2 Cent on Twitch as well. I mean on Twitter, and he posted some like a like the clip from the video that the girl posted, and I read his comments, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, it was very confusing because not knowing what like is happening. I'm watching this video, and I'm like, what did I just like witness? And I had to watch it about 5 times to realize that they're giving away a PC, and what they're talking about, how this girl doesn't have one click on the link or that's on her panels, and she's an ambassador, but because she's have no clicks, that they're re-rolling for the giveaway. I'm like, that is like really wrong. Like, I was outraged because
Absolutely.
like I'm involved with, when it comes to giveaways, every year I'm in Gigabyte, Asus, MSI, EVGA, any of the like all the computer companies around here in Germany do giveaways every year for basically 2 months. And
wow,
1 year I was involved in a giveaway with Gigabyte, and they said the person's name who won, and I'm like, yo, that's me. But they didn't give a last name. And I fought them tooth and nail. I'm like, you called my name. They're like, but there was another person with the same name. I'm like, but you didn't specify a last name. And I just gave up. I'm like, I will never do business with y'all because of how y'all are handling this. I'm like, if I didn't win, fine. I don't care. I'm like, you need to specify the person's last name. But back to the topic. This is a Twitch stream that is basically known for building PCs live on stream and doing giveaways. That's what they're doing. They've got Intel plastered all over their like freaking panel, like overlay. They get parts from companies, and they're going to sit here, and how they basically talked when they're like, "Oh, she doesn't have any clicks on the panel." I'm like, this is wrong. I'm like, she won out of all the people that are involved. She won. It doesn't matter how many people, like how many clicks she's gotten on the link or whatnot. And I'm like, as a company, and that was what, the CEO that was
that
doing
was the
this?
CEO, and then he went off on her.
I thought, yeah, I'm like, you are the CEO of this, and you're acting like this. Who is the dude building the PC? Not like stepping up and like saying it doesn't matter how much like clicks she's got on the link. She should, like, she won. It doesn't matter. He just went along with it. He's like, reroll. I'm like, what in the hell? It literally made me so mad. And I've seen Intel has actually posted an article about it and how they are completely outraged with Artisan Builds for how they acted and handled this. And they've publicly apologized to her. I know Artisan Builds has emailed her and basically told her, we are giving you the PC. And I'm like, okay, after all the shit and everything that y'all dug your grave, now you're going to come through and, oh, we're going to give you the PC. Like, she emailed him back, said, no, I don't want the PC anymore. Take me off your ambassador list. I will not watch y'all. I am unfollowing y'all.
Okay, so people who don't know about this, just to give you the main story, a company called Artisan Builds, who is a custom-made computer builder, does Twitch stream giveaways, and the requirements that they listed is you have to be an ambassador. This girl, who I cannot pronounce her name still, let me see, I'm going to find it here. I follow her on Twitch now. Actually, moral of the story, so do 27,000 other people.
Holy!
She went from like 1,000 to like 27,000 when this happened. So there is a lot of positive that came out. Her name's K.L.P. I don't know if that's pronouncing it right, but she was selected to win a PC. Then they decided to change the rules midstream and say, oh, wait. No, you haven't received any link clicks, so you're not bringing us business, even though you have our banner posted on the stream. So we're not going to give you the PC. We're going to have to give it to someone else because we're changing the rules.
That's like the thing. She can't control like anybody clicking on this stuff. She can't make them do it.
Right. Jay's 2 cents stepped in after she had posted on Twitter and said, hey, don't worry about this. I got you. I'll build you a PC. And she already has the PC. I mean, it was quick. This just happened like a week ago. She already has the PC. It was incredibly quick how much he stepped in. And that made me, that increased my respect for Jay's 2 cents just for doing that.
Like, for me, like, I've followed Jay's 2 cent on YouTube. I follow him on Twitter. And, like, I know what he has lying around his shop. And I'm pretty damn sure he built her a better PC than what she would have got from Artisan Builds.
Well, actually, the Artisan Builds PCs, it turns out, they've been underclocking their GPUs because they have cooling problems and doing some other shady stuff too. So if you decide to buy a computer, here's the moral of the story. Don't go to Artisan Builds. They're scummy, and they will give you a crappy system. At least that's what I've heard. I cannot confirm.
Like, for me, like, when it comes to, like, systems, like, buying them from, well, Artisan Builds, it would be considered, I would rank them up there as, like, a pre-built system. But, like, my thing is, like, what are their prices? Like, even if, without knowing, like, the underclocking and everything, like, granted, I wouldn't buy from them after what they've done here. Like, for me, it's, like, I don't know. Like, I'm at a loss for words here when it comes to how they, like, what happened with this poor girl and how a company that is known for doing giveaways and doing this, it's like, makes me wonder, is this the first time they've done it? Like, how they treated her. It's how, like, my whole thing is, okay, you need to be an ambassador. Well, do you need to be an ambassador for a set amount of time? Do you have to, like, I understand their rules, but it, like, nowhere in their rules did it say you have to have clicks from the link. You need to, like, all the crap that they did. It's just ridiculous. And I don't think she's the only one they re-rolled on either.
She might have just been the only person who stepped up.
Because I know they did, like, went into the what was it, analytics or something in the video, and they're going over it, and it's just like, honestly, I'm right there with you. I would not buy anything from Artisan Builds. There's more than enough companies out there that can do a pre-built system and give you better quality and a better reassurance and peace of mind for the money that you're forking out, because guaranteed you're forking out a couple $1,000 already. Like, I know NZXT give you a decent build and you get a pretty decent, like, warranty and customer service with them. It's like, if their customer service for Artisan Builds is anything like what happened in this video, I'm pretty sure they're going to lose a lot of business.
Oh, they've already lost a lot of streamers that aren't following them anymore. Just in case whoever's watching on my screen, I know that Jester can't see it. I did just put on my screen, follow on Twitch, Kapia. Go follow her. Yeah. She deserves it. She pointed out the atrocities that the company was committing. Give her a follow. Join the other 26,000 other people who have followed her in the last week. And I did watch some of her streams actually this morning. She's pretty good. She's pretty entertaining.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad the Twitch community and, well, the whole PC community is, like, rallied behind her and dropped as many followers and everything for her. But, like, when I mean, like, what like for the artisan builds, it's not just the Twitch community that they're losing. They have companies that give them parts to do these builds that are giving the company like.
I know
not
Intel's
vision,
thinking
but
about backing out.
like not notoriety. I'm at a loss. Honestly, a loss for words here. But
they've just given
like
themselves a bad reputation.
exactly, and the companies are going to pull out and be like, no, they're going to distance themselves from this dumpster fire that's now happening.
Their larger streamers, a lot of their streamers have pulled out. From what I was reading, I know Intel was investigating and questioning whether they were going to pull out. Last I read, and I'm sure there's other companies too that are looking at this, going, "No, we don't want to be associated with that."
Yeah, like in these times, there's a good chance that company just burnt every bridge that they've got. And it's going to take a freaking miracle for them to save any relationship with any of the companies that give them parts.
Well, you're going to have to excuse my language here. They are dumbass, scummy motherfuckers.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it right there. They're dumbass, scummy motherfuckers.
I have to agree on that one. Like, I didn't even know it. Like, there was a Twitch channel out there that did like live builds and whatnot.
There's more than one, actually. And, most of them are pretty legit, but they've shown their true colors, even after the fact. They've never really apologized. They just kept reiterating, oh, we changed the rules because we need business, but we're going to try to treat all our streamers going forward just fine.
We changed the rules because we need business. I'm sorry you need business. You're currently in a market in today's world where semiconductors, chip shortages, and everything, you're not the only company out there suffering from this. So my whole thing is don't say, well, we need the business. I don't care if you need the business. When people can't afford to buy like $1,000 computer or whatnot, don't go sitting here being a dick about it and screw people over that actually want a giveaway. Like, follow through. Okay, they didn't have clicks on their link. Follow through with, okay, this person won. We're going to get their piece, like information and everything, and send you out your PC. That right there would show more respect from the smaller streamers and community. They'll be like, okay, these guys are awesome. They're backing a small streamer that doesn't get a lot of traffic through their channel. That's going to like help that channel out even more. But no, they wanted to be a dick and literally just do what they did.
I mean, here's the thing. If they would have given her the PC, she probably would have been like, hey, this is my PC I got from Artisan. Hey, they gave me this PC. Hey, these are great guys.
Yeah, right? It's like, she would honestly like give them so much props for it. I won this awesome, amazing PC from Artisan Builds, and that would funnel more freaking revenue. Well, not revenue, but people through their websites and everything. But now they're getting a lot of hate for what they could have just honestly saved themselves a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, they just missed the point completely. I can leave it at that Artisan Builds are scummy motherfuckers. Follow Capilla.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Just drop her a follow. Like, for a lot of people, like for me, once my month is up for my Prime membership with my one of my friends, I'm going to go over to her channel and drop my 1 month free Prime sub to her.
Okay, so what do you know about the NVIDIA hack? How much information do you have on it?
That is actually something I've been reading up on, and with everything that's going on for me, it's something I've laughed about. I'm like, oh, NVIDIA, a big company, gets hacked by this group.
LabSUS, I think is their name.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, LabSUS.
But I'm like, they're blackmailing NVIDIA, basically saying, release the drivers for the crypto hash rates, publicly, or we're going to leak your blueprint for your graphics cards, like your RTX cards, the materials you use, everything you do. And it's just like, really? How is this going to go? And I'm like, I don't think NVIDIA is really going to bat an eye about it or whatnot. And as like for me to this day, I still don't know if NVIDIA actually like followed through with what NVIDIA has done.
I mean, there's so much mixed information because NVIDIA doesn't really talk. I mean, it took them 3 or 4 days, actually I think longer than that, just to say, hey, an incident happened and we're investigating. But there's so many mixed results. So the first thing that I read about it was NVIDIA got hacked and hacked the hackers back. I don't know if it actually happened, but the hackers did claim that Lapsus claimed that NVIDIA actually hacked them back and encrypted the data so they couldn't read it. Unfortunately, they did have backups of that.
Like that's like no. From what I was reading, the Lapsus has the backups, like everything that they got backed up. So NVIDIA might have ruined what was on like a computer, but they've got backups of everything that is still clean.
You know, the next weird thing is most of the time you have ransomware attacks, it's for money. They're saying we want the hash rate limiter removed and we want open source drivers.
Yeah, it's like, well, in a way, I guess it would be money because they can sit there and mine crypto on whatever they have and make literally butt tons of money hand over fist without having a limiter on their freaking graphics card.
Now, here's something that I didn't know until today, though, and this is actually important for people to know. With that, they also got a bunch of NVIDIA certificates, which means they can make drivers with malware in them and put a valid certificate on there so it goes right past Windows Defender. Windows Defender won't check it because it's a valid certificate, but there can easily be drivers going out with malware in them, and that's something to be aware of.
My whole thing with the possible driver, like the malware loaded up driver, because I get my updates for my graphics card through the NVIDIA, the GeForce Experience. There we go. Now, like, would that, like, the possible malware loaded up driver make it to that?
In theory, no. Because, I mean, if you're getting it off the website itself, the actual NVIDIA website, it probably won't be an issue. But it could be an issue for people who sometimes get their drivers from other places.
Well, like for me, like from what I understand about hackers, they no matter what they do, like they might get in, and when they get out, I don't think they always close out completely. I think they always leave like a back door they can get back in that might be hard to find. So if they can get back into NVIDIA's thing and load up like the GeForce Experience with bad drivers with loaded up malware, they can essentially screw over a lot of people.
Well, they did leave a back door, and that's how NVIDIA hacked them. Because they still had one of their computers logged into NVIDIA's stuff, and NVIDIA hacked them. At least, like I said, it's all rumor. I just thought it was interesting. You know, a whole lot of drama. Supposedly, Lapsus has also released the emails and passwords for 72,000 of NVIDIA's employees.
Oh my God, that's a nightmare.
And they have more to release because they have been releasing stuff. They've released the DLSS diagram and code.
Yeah,
which that's big for NVIDIA because that makes it where other companies can take it and replicate it. Well, once that's released, that's kind of bad for NVIDIA. They're going to have to start pulling out some more tricks out of some hats.
Oh, go ahead.
What was that? I was going to say they've also made a driver that increases the hash rate limiter. So instead of being being limited to 20% hash rate, you're limited to 40%.
Okay.
So
that's like crazy. I know after the hack and everything, I know Nvidia's stock like crashed. A lot of the people that are like holding lots of shares like that actually can move like Nvidia, like they're bored with them dumping their shares. That put a hurt in Nvidia, not in just like a threat, but actually in their pocket.
yeah, so I mean, I don't think it's going to hurt Nvidia long term or anything, but it's definitely doing some damage right now. I thought the whole thing was interesting because there are so many conflicting things that I've read, and it's mostly because Nvidia doesn't talk. Nvidia doesn't say what was stolen. Nvidia doesn't really want to give any information out. And it may just be they want to wait till they're sure. But the rumors, at least, are crazy.
Like for me, I think it's weird because, like you said, Nvidia doesn't talk. So Nvidia is just staying quiet. Give me a minute. Yeah, Nvidia is being quiet about this. Yeah, serious emotional scars. But with Nvidia being quiet, it makes it very hard for their clientele to really trust them right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't have too much more to say on that. Like I said, I thought it was interesting just because of the amount of rumors, the amount of different circulation going around. It could turn out that only 20% of it is true. So, don't take,
I honestly just think it's funny.
Yeah, don't take anything about this Nvidia hack that I've said verbatim, because Nvidia hasn't talked. All Nvidia said is we're investigating an incident. Okay, so I promised a Mass Effect Legendary giveaway, which I will actually give it away. Whoever gets drawn, you get the game. We're not going to do an artisan builds. I give games away almost every day at this point. Well, actually, every day at this point. But it will go back down to a couple times soon. So let me get into chat here, see who we got. Last time I checked, we only had 2 people on here. We have Nexus Kaio and Arcade Bang. Now, since there's only 2 people, we're going to do this the simple way. Assuming I can find a coin. Somehow I don't own a coin. Here we go. Coin. Quarter. We're going to say Arcade Bang is heads and Nexus Kaio is tails. Nexus Kaio, you have won Mass Effect Legendary Edition. If you follow me on Twitter, go ahead and send me a DM and I'll send you your key over. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I'll try to direct message you here. You're welcome. You follow me on Twitter? Okay, go ahead and send me a DM on Twitter. I'll send you your key back. It'll probably be about 15 minutes or so just because I got to wrap up this podcast really quick. Okay, awesome. Yeah, send me the DM and we will get you your game. Now, speaking of Mass Effect Legendary Edition, now we have your screen on. My screen is not on the thing right now because I thought it would be cluttered to put both screens. So I mean, I can see you haven't had much time to play. We've been talking. Just from what you've seen so far, what are your first impressions of the game?
This mic, I'm telling you, it's a pain in my ass. I think it's decent. Like the graphics look, well, the cutscene graphics look good for. God, I don't know how old is this game?
It was a Legendary Edition, just came out last year. The original one is from 2012, I think. I've been playing a little bit. I'm a little bit further in the game than he is. Not much. I did play the original Mass Effect, so I am not new to the game. The graphics updates are amazing. I've noticed some slight dialogue changes, but overall, from what I've seen so far, it looks pretty good. Now, you're only talking about probably a total of 15 minutes of gameplay in the hour and 41 minutes we've been doing this podcast. But my first impression is it's pretty good. I would recommend giving it a try, especially if you have Game Pass and you can try it for free. Oh, he's back.
Haha. All right. So they've basically just upgraded the graphics with the Legendary, right?
They've upgraded the graphics. They have changed some dialogue, and done some minor plot changes, but nothing that is major.
Okay, well that's not bad.
Yeah, it is essentially the original game. Like I said, there are a couple changes in there, and like Mass Effect 3, it doesn't have the multiplayer that the original did. I don't know if you could hear when I was going through my review, but it's essentially the original game with a lot better graphics. I mean, they didn't, like, a lot of times you see updated games, they're like, oh, the HD edition, and they come out and you're like, hey, it looks the same.
Like for me, like I've never played this game, like even when it did come out on a console. So the graphics look good. I'll say it was made by what, Bungie, right?
Bungie, EA.
So I don't think it's bad. I think it's nice because like it reminds me of a more like the roughly the same graphics that the new Halo has.
Let me check on that, actually. I don't think Mass Effect was actually made by Bungie. I think it was just made by EA.
It was made by Bungie. I could be wrong, so please, any Mass Effect fans, please forgive me.
Yeah, I know it's published by EA. That does not mean it wasn't made by Bungie, since Bungie is often subcontracted.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look it up and see. But yeah, I mean, my opinion on the game from what I have played is it looks like a wonderful update to the original Mass Effect series. If you played the original Mass Effect, right now you can pick it up for like $10. I know because I did earlier, so I could give it away. Or it's also in the Humble Bundle right now. So if you subscribe to Humble Bundle, you'll go ahead and get the Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
Well, I think
7 other
getting
games.
it from the Humble Bundle edition would be the Humble. Oh my God, the Humble Bundle edition would be worth it because that's at least going to a good cause. Because I know most of the profit they make goes to charities and foundations.
That's where I got your copy.
Ah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that is actually where I got your copy from. Humble Bundle is actually a cool service. I have it $12 a month. I get 8 games. They're a surprise every month. But last month I got Borderlands 3, which I already had and I gave away. This month I got Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which I already have, so I gave away. But I also got Desperados 3 and some other games that are I will eventually play, maybe. There is disadvantages to have once you get over the 2,000 game mark. You just can't play them all.
Well, yeah, that's like for the Humble Bundle. Oh my God, the Humble Bundle. Like you get a good bit of games, and to be honest, I know friends that have been signed up with them for years, and they every year they'll give out a list of games to like their Discord and be like, if you want a key to one of these games, let me know. There's like they tell them like we do not have the time to play all these games.
Yeah, I mean, I got Man of Medan in this one too, and I've been looking forward to playing Man of Medan. So I will probably try to stream that sometime soon. I just gave it to someone recently. Oh, I gave it to Lobo. I gave him a game because he was my #1 Twitter follower.
Awesome.
So I know he's on my Twitch sometimes. Maybe I'll see if he wants to play since it's co-op.
Like the one thing I'm noticing that's like driving me nuts is when, like in the cutscenes, when they're talking, the graphics of them talking, like their mouth moving, does not line up and sync with the actual audio.
I'm not noticing that on mine.
Well, like for me, I mainly notice it with like the black, like the commander here, the black commander, like his mouth doesn't open up a lot. So, like it's weird. Like it you hear like the dialogue come, but like the mouth, like what you would hear and see, don't match up. It's like watching a dubbed, like an old dubbed version of Godzilla.
It's like when you're watching Netflix and you have to pause it and restart it so the audio relines up.
Yeah.
Because I know I have that actually pretty much every streaming service. I'll be watching it, and the longer I watch it, the more the audio gets off. So I'm like, okay, pause.
They're making
play.
sure you're still awake.
Actually, my TV upstairs, it has a setting that you can set to like 1, 2, 3 seconds, or half second, 1 second, to help audio sync up with streams, because sometimes they just don't sync up.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, and I've never seen it on a TV. I just got this TV last year. It's in my living room. But it's really kind of cool because it has a setting that you can set it for like a half second, 1 second, and it will take that and it will make the audio and the video sync up. Unfortunately, it doesn't work great because you can start a new show and then it doesn't sync up again, so you have to adjust it again. So.
Well, that's not good. It would be better if it was like constant.
But I think we're done. I think we made it.
Awesome.
So I think it's time to shut this down. Everybody have a good night. I look forward to, hopefully you can tune in next week.
Yes, I'm glad to be here. I'm definitely glad I could help.
Hey, I thank you for being on. You got to be on the first episode.
Oh, wow. I feel so privileged.
COVID Clinic tests everyone. We're best at providing incredible testing that's run by a physician administered by a healthcare professional. There was a huge need for groups. Employers started sending their people over. So I started saying, if they can't get appointments at the sites and we need more locations, why don't we just go to them? I can go in and I can assess what's happening. There's so many industries that have been impacted, and let's get all that back. COVID Clinic's mission is testing for all. If you need testing, you can get testing. If you need answers, you can get answers.
Welcome to Honestly, Though, a podcast where you get a peek into what it's like to eavesdrop on conversations in the girls' bathroom.
We're challenging social norms through real, raw, and risque discussions.
So honestly, though, enjoy the episode. Do women really want vulnerable men? On today's episode of the Honestly Though podcast, we brought a very special guest to the couch to help us answer that very question. Welcome my big brother Adam to the stage. Ooh.
Thank you guys for having me.
Welcome. It's Bring Your Brother to Work Day.
Yeah.
I've been watching y'all, so it's like, it's kind of surreal to be here now,
Oh, we big
Walk
time.
into the studio, I'm like, oh, snap, they big time.
We do it. He's been around since our conception, so he saw the little basement studio we had. He's seen it all.
I'm a fan.
Oh,
thank you, Eni.
Thank you for coming through.
Oh, you got Zena over there a little quiet. What you?
Quiet. Okay.
Anyway, so yes, as I mentioned before, we go back. Sorry, Sim.
All trio.
No, I'm just kidding.
All trio. Yes.
Today's episode was inspired by an actual conversation you and I were having about a person that was in my life. And without naming names, I had mentioned that he was a little too emotional for me. And what Adam had said to me had really opened up my eyes in my own verbiage and the words that I choose to use towards men by calling this person too emotional. And if you want to get into what you were telling me about, when you were younger, people using that with you, you can go ahead.
When I was young, I would get into my feelings. Somebody would say something. I would express myself if I was mad in a way where, you'll see my eyes tearing up or my face, and what happens? I was always made fun of. Mm-hmm. And it was just, it was just the way I was expressing myself. I didn't know I was doing something wrong in society, Men are supposed to not, show their emotions in that way. Mm-hmm. But now I was releasing it. It is what it was. But I would say growing up, I feel like now I don't I don't show my emotions that much. I'm not too vulnerable.
Yeah. Is that like in just crying in front of people, or is that also in just like expressing your feelings, because that may not be considered?
Not crying, just expressing my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I kind of go, with the flow. I'm not really expressing my feelings.
But yes, that actually was like seems to be the running theme with men, is that maybe when they're younger, they might have a little bit more safety to open up, but somewhere along the lines, there's been people telling them, whether that's society, women in your life, other male friends, somebody's telling them like, that's not cool. You can't do that. And
big
so
boys
that's
don't cry.
Big boys don't cry.
Manly.
First of all, that's what we about to put an end to today. We're going to get y'all crying by the end of this episode, all right? Okay? We're going to get some men tears. Okay. So actually, some of the Twitter thread that we wanted to get into that really matches exactly what Adam was saying, essentially. It's really just in ways that men have had a hard time opening up to women. So I'm going to get to that really quickly. It was a viral thread, so I'm sure you're familiar with it. And the first tweet that I think kicked off the thread was... Y'all ready? Why do men shut their partners out when they're going through stuff? It's unfair. So this was the tweet itself from a woman that set off this viral Twitter thread of men expressing why they can't open up to women. So let's just gauge how you feel about the initial tweet. Why do men shut their partners out when they're going through stuff? It's unfair.
I would say maybe because at that point you feel like, nobody's going to be able to help you through it. You don't want to come off as someone that's soft or complains easily.
Yeah.
But I think maybe the biggest part is you think that person probably won't have no effect. Telling that person won't do nothing for you. So
yeah.
Kind of keeping it in and just going about your days. Sometimes.
Because what is going to help if you just chat, if you just talk about it, what's going to happen?
Yeah, what's going to happen?
That's an interesting point you made. Simph, you want to jump in?
You basically said what I was going to say. Because I was watching this episode of Shan Booty's podcast, and I've been preaching. I don't know if you know who they are, but they were on it. Oh, okay, of course. But they were on her podcast, and Abba basically said, like, people always tell you to like talk about it, like open up your feelings, but like what is that actually going to do?
Right.
Like it's not going to fix the problems. And that's why men are just like, I'll just do it myself.
Your problem's still there.
Exactly.
We're just talking about it. And now you have somebody that's apologizing and being like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. But it's like, does that really help?
No. And it also shows like we're kind of ignorant to the depth of things that men go through. Like we don't really understand y'all's issues. We may think we do, but like we don't really get how that feels to you guys.
We don't. Go ahead.
I would never know.
Y'all will never share.
We just don't understand
the cycle.
So I want to recite to you the one of the men's responses, and let me know how you feel about this. So his reply to her first tweet was, the answer to this question is in the tweet itself, and she doesn't even have the self-awareness to realize it. First paragraph, the man has a problem. He's going through stuff. Second line, she made it about herself. It's unfair to you, right? And that's why men don't. Would you agree? Is that something that generally happens? Women kind of make you, the way that you open up to them about them?
No, I just think if your lady's concerned, it's obviously crossing into your relationship. So whatever you're going through is now traveling to not only you but your relationship. So at that point, it's involving her. So is it fair? No, because now she has to kind of think about what you're thinking about and try to figure you out, and she doesn't know what you're going through, and it's a guessing game. So. I think if you have a partner, I mean, that should be the easiest person that you should be able to be vulnerable with. If, that's your true love.
If they create that space for you.
Yeah, if y'all create that energy.
If that's what's in the cards for that. But for me personally, in that tweet where she does say it's unfair, I can see that. I understand. And same as you said, when it comes to relationships, if one person is doing all the emotional work and the other person is not giving and is just taking emotionally from you and not giving anything emotionally to the relationship or vulnerably, I can understand the unfairness, right? Mm-hmm. But it's almost the way she framed it. It's like, why don't they tell us when you're going through stuff? It's unfair. Like, yeah, they're going through stuff, but you're already kind of minimalizing it in the tweet. And I feel like that's almost a broader sense of how we engage with our men when they are going through stuff. We can minimalize it because they're not crying about it the way our friends cry about a problem when they have one.
Don't be looking this way when you do the way your friends cry.
When your friends have a problem.
But also men probably are thinking like how they respond to it. If a woman is opening up about her issues, like, man, she complained too much. Like,
dang, that's what y'all be thinking. Shit.
Sometimes.
Maybe he's feeling like, man,
small.
if I, you know.
I mean, how to us? How often? They're just like, really, what you mad over? Like, come on now.
So,
like, seriously.
Your big problem might be small to someone else. So you just maybe try to keep it in. Like, I'm not sure how it's gonna come across.
I agree. I think it depends on what the problem is. Like, if it's just a general thing and I can talk to my girls about it, then cool, I'm just going to talk to y'all about it.
Yeah.
If it's going to affect my relationship that I don't have, then I'm going to talk to that person as well, because I don't want to, I wear my moods on my face and just shut people out at certain times. And if I just need a moment, I would rather say like, I'm going through stuff. Can I get like some days to myself? And it's not about you. So I think it just depends on what it is and if it affects the person that you're with or not.
It takes a very mature person to be like, yeah, you can get some days to yourself.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Because that gets me. Go ahead.
No, it's also big that you were big enough to say that, because some people would never say it and stay trapped in that situation where now everybody's being affected. So sometimes you need some alone time.
That's
a fact.
I was going to say, I kind of agree with Bree about, well, the tweet sounded kind of entitled, just a little bit. Because what if her man didn't want to come to her because he knows she can't handle what he's about to give her? And then the response she gives him actually makes him feel worse. So it's like, do I want to tell you? Because I know how you are. Like, I love you, but I know how you are. So I'm not going to tell you this because I don't think you can handle it.
Well, then is that the person you should be with?
Yeah, like it got to be open communication at all times.
Well, but is it fair to expect that your partner is just going to be able to like confide in you about everything? There are certain things in my relationship that I definitely confide in my boyfriend with, but then there are also other things that I just know based on our lived experiences that he won't get it. And for me personally, like it hurts more to try to explain something to somebody with no like, than it is to like, that just doesn't get it, than it is to just like internally deal with it all myself. The situation with my father that you guys all know about, it's harder for me to like try to explain to somebody else why that hurts than to just like go to my brother who can understand that, or like a sister or myself or my friends, you know? So in instances like that, I do think that we have to do a better job as women at creating the space for men to bring us their issues when they're going through stuff and not make it about us. Not make it about like, because there is a badge of honor. Well, we'll get to that later actually, but women do love when men express themselves to us. Like we always say it. That's what the point of this episode is, right? We all say we want vulnerable men. We like love vulnerable men. But do we? Because the second they start expressing their emotion, it becomes... We start to like criminalize them for it. We weaponize it against them. We're like, you're being too emotional. Bring it down. Bring it down. So then in times when they're going through things and we're not, me and that person or that person and I are not in a fight anymore, that they still remember. They got that muscle memory of when I wasn't necessarily being that receptive to their emotions, when I was weaponizing it. Even though we were in a fight, that still kind of carries over. I'm 12,000% guilty of that. And it's probably my biggest toxic trait of being like upset. I'm just sending this damn microphone for a ride today. Y'all see it? It's just bouncing today. Shit. I'm gonna do like this. Maybe that's gonna get my hands out the way. But I don't know. That's how I feel. I feel like it's a little bit more on us as women, but it's also on men as a culture, like for each other, and like just try to not make it so taboo that society has taught you guys. You see where I'm coming from?
I got that.
See it.
But we also do have another tweet where the guy, another kind of standpoint from this first original tweet where he says, because at some point you'll use it against him, whether it's intentional or not. Because women, you don't know, certain things can't be said. And when they're said, they can't be taken back. Sorry just won't cut it. And so that leads into like what I was just saying. That's what I do. We can't take it back.
I mean, that feels like if you're in a situation where arguments just get out of control and you're using words or situations as weapons. But I don't know. I've never been through that situation where
nice.
Amazing.
Somebody used something against me that I've maybe told them in confidence.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing, honestly, to not have to deal with people that hurt you when you've shared something that is literally, I'm sharing this with you so that it no longer hurts me, or it's not just my burden to share, it's ours. And then you're going to throw it back in my face like, shit, that hurts. But I do want to get into maybe like a little bit of a theory on why women may do that. And y'all can all correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been thinking about some things and I want to know if it has any validity. Okay. So boom, here we go. Society has pretty much weaponized women's vulnerability and our emotions for as long as I was a kid. The reason why I come off as such a hard woman, or like not like emotional woman, is because I grew up my whole life thinking that was like unattractive, or like that was like what you don't want to be. You don't want to be like those women. That's a bad thing. So I think a lot of the times because our emotions are weaponized, like women, what was the biggest reason why people said women can't be a president? There's going to be so many wars. They're too emotional. They're not going to be able to think logically. And then we had Trump, the most emotional motherfucking big baby you'd ever seen. Anyway, but my point is that a lot of times we make it seem as though women aren't going to be able to put logic above emotion. And so it's been weaponized a lot in our lives. And so could that be why we, like, the first thing we go to is to weaponize it against men when we're in conflict? Is that worth looking into?
I mean, honestly, the most I've weaponized is, I'm like, it's not that deep. I actually thought it was funny. I didn't know if you have feelings.
And sometimes it is funny, and that's why they don't want to tell us nothing.
Like, I try my best not to throw things back at people because I do want to create a safe space. Like, if I fuck with you, I care about you. So I really just have to, I think it's just emotional intelligence of what may not bother me, may bother someone else, and vice versa. And also, I think if you are nuanced with your emotions, then yeah, it's going to be weaponized against you. If you like, as a woman, if you're like lashing out about every single thing, like, you got to sit down and do some self-reflection and like really just learn to be more aware of your emotions. And maybe not everything needs to be, why are you so triggered? Honestly speaking, I wouldn't want to deal with that. That's why I stopped dating women. So I was like, why are you the stud, but you're like so fucking emotional? Yeah, there I go. I use this against women.
Hello, women.
But also we're using like the wrong things because like we want people to be vulnerable, but we're like, you're too emotional. But also emotionality, and vulnerability are not the same thing, y'all. No. It's not the same. Like men, we want them to be vulnerable. Like we want them to tell you like what plagues you at night, what keeps you up at night, what's the things that really in your soul like really make you, that give you adversity, right? But we don't want the man that's going to have like the explosive reactions and the explosive emotions, because that's what, when we're saying it's too emotional or you're being like too, you're acting, that's what I feel like a lot, or at least for me personally, that's what I'm talking about. It's not necessarily using the moments in which they've been like vulnerable about
something going on with them.
Exactly. I would never take, if somebody sat down and told me like, listen, I'm having like a hard time. Like I have anxiety and OCD. Like imagine somebody sitting down and telling me like, I'm going through a lot right now with my anxiety or something like that. I would be like, oh, well. And then we get into a fight and be like, well, that's why your stupid ass can't sit down straight and you always fucking fidgeting. I just combined like 12 words, y'all. I tried. But you know, I don't weaponize in that way, but I have weaponized again in the way where it's like, well, that's why you've been cheated on. It's fucked up. As fucked up as it is of me, that's why you've been cheated on right there. And what's crazy is I feel so justified in the moment because whatever is happening, I'm like, yo, that's why you got cheated on. In my head, I'm like, that's the fuck why right here. And so I say it. And it's not cool.
And what a blow to his ego.
Right.
Yeah.
All the triggers of that. Oh God.
And especially when that's something that's super prevalent problem in y'all relationship is the fact that this person has been cheated on so many times. And here I go, making shit worse. Like, you know, just throwing fuel on the fire.
I think that's pretty big that he was able to even come out and say, yo, I've been cheated on. Because you ask some of these dudes, yo, you ever been cheated on? It's like,
ooh, that hurt.
Nah.
Yup.
I left.
I do the cheating.
Right, niggas stay. Come on.
But yeah, it's like
that's being vulnerable in itself.
That's being vulnerable. Like, you know, be honest with yourself. It is what it is. It may not have been nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I think that's where a lot of guys will never be vulnerable. In a question like that, yeah, I had to go myself. Yeah, I messed up. That was me.
No, nigga, you did it. No. That's so funny. To save face. Is that like an ego thing? I don't understand.
Absolutely, yeah. Because then you're like, the first thing as a woman is going to be like, your dick is trash. Like,
oh my God.
You see,
let's just be honest. So like, I mean, why else? I don't know. But that's like the first thing. And a man's ego is like, damn, nah, you can't know that.
Have you ever told a man after y'all broke up his dick is trash?
Nah, I wouldn't fuck with you if your dick was trash. No.
No, but most women that are saying that, they're just saying that to hurt his feelings.
Yeah,
like, they don't.
exactly.
You wouldn't have stayed all that time if you really thought it. But how about you, Sam? What you did?
So while we were going, when we were going over this, I had made up a whole memory. I was like,
not made up the memory.
I found this out after the fact, after we got off the phone, okay? Because I went to go ask my man, I was like, when have I ever weaponized, you know, your vulnerability? And then he was like, well, I don't think you really do that. You might be indifferent. And then he was like, wait, no. There was this one time. It was when we weren't really on, like I wasn't messing with him like that because I was mad at him for talking to my friend. But then, you know, that whole situation.
You know.
So, what happened?
So I remember that story.
Oh yes. So during that time, he was trying to get me back, and he would write me letters and put the letters with the flowers, and I would not give a fuck. I wouldn't care.
I wouldn't give a fuck.
He's like, "Did you get them?" I'm like, "I don't know. I guess Auntie took them out the thing."
I guess Auntie.
I guess Auntie. He was like, "Well, did you like it?" Like, I'm like, I didn't see it. I just did not care. I was just being so mean. And he's like, yeah, like that hurt me because he was really trying to get me back and being very open about how he felt about me and like how he was upset that he fucked up.
Wild, vulnerable.
Yes. And I was just like, I didn't care at all.
He also making it about himself. He messed up.
That's a fact. That's a fact,
Lamore.
But see, years later, I found that I realized he didn't really mess up. It was me.
It was her.
It wasn't.
She was
we weren't even together. And I told my friend I didn't want to be with him anymore. So then she made a move on him. So it's like
she told him he didn't want to be with him. She told the friend she didn't want to be with him. Mm-hmm. So then they got together when they both asked her.
Oh, they asked.
Yes.
Oh, they asked permission.
Not to get together.
But they both asked how she felt about. Imagine
how I felt about him.
Right.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't care anymore. Like, you know, but I was lying, but I was telling them I don't care anymore. But inside, I did.
She was capping. Big cap. Give it a cap.
So like that was super cap. Yes, put a cap on my head. Absolutely.
Put the cap on my head. Hand it over.
But yes. So that was my time. But something else that I found interesting that I found out that I do is I fetishize men's vulnerability. So like if a guy tells me something like a deep, dark secret, whatever the case is, I'll feel proud. I'll feel like it's a badge of honor that he told me this specifically. Like I feel really special. And then I take that away from him and then now it's about me. So it's not even about the fact that you told me. It's not even about the thing anymore. It's literally about, oh my God, you told me this?
Opened up like that?
What? To me though? To me? But then finding out later some of the things he might have told somebody else and I'm mad.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, wait. You told this person, what? I thought it was me. And now again, it's not about him. It's about me.
Yo, I'm guilty. Guilty.
Wow.
That is so crazy. I never even realized that. But yes, that's a thing. Mm-hmm. That is so true. Men, like it actually isn't even necessarily about like the fact that they're oh God, Simph, you just like solved the mystery. It's not really when we say, do women want vulnerable men? It's like, no, we want to know that we're special enough for you to
To relay that information.
Yeah, to relay that information on us, for you to feel comfortable enough to tell us that deep, dark secret or whatever that is. That's what we crave. We don't necessarily crave them being outright with, forthcoming with their emotions, because as we just stated, we villainize them for it afterwards.
It really depends on what it is.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, she said depends on what it is.
It really does.
No.
Like, someone got mad at me for stating the things I was better at than he was. And I was like, we were joking, like, you started it, so why are you mad? And he was really upset. And I was like, it's not that deep. Like, it's shit like that. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Really? Instead, perhaps I could have said, well, why did it make you get into your feelings?
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
what's the
Why was
root
this
of
a
the
trigger?
issue, right? Yeah, what's the trigger? But instead, I was like, it's fucking hilarious because I was joking, but it's true. These are the things, but still.
But like, is it that
not that
deep?
deep.
That's why I'm not the best person to be telling y'all what to do. But because I still don't even know if it was that deep, to be honest.
It wasn't. I still don't know. But
if we're
to you,
I got to the core, so I don't know.
Clearly, he wasn't Clearly, it wasn't like that deep for him because he started it. But what was deep was when it was reciprocated.
Oh yeah,
like he could dish it out, but he just couldn't take it back.
Was it the things I said? You know, like, was it something specific?
Can we get a little example?
It was probably he thought what was going through your head was true. Like, she really think that?
Yeah, so he was sitting there like realizing that it was true. That's the funny thing.
What was y'all talking about?
That's what
Okay. A little
this man was like, whoops.
We're like sitting there eating breakfast. I don't remember how the conversation came about. He's like, I'm better at everything than you are, fucking Sagittarius. And I was like, no, you're not. And he's like, yeah, I am. I'm like, I can list the list. I can name some things that I'm better at. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I'm a better kisser. And he's like, who told you that? And I'm like, everyone.
Right
that's
there.
what got him mad.
My chest.
I was like, I'm a better communicator. I'm a better cook. I'm a better writer. I'm a better everything that I'm good at.
It was the better cook, the better writer.
Boom. And then I was like, I'm just joking, but it's the truth. And his face was just like, this bitch. And I'm just sitting here like, what's wrong? Is this something I said? And he's like, no, I'm good. And after like 2 hours of silence, I'm like, okay, can we talk? Like, what's up? And he told me, and I was like, oh, I thought we were joking, but like, it's true, but it's not that deep. But I get why you're upset. Like,
She was not backing down. She was like, either way, you're going to know this how I really feel.
Yeah.
It's still true, even 2 hours later.
But honestly, I was like, I don't want you to like, it's not a competition. I want you to utilize me for the things that I'm better than.
Yes,
Better at than you are. Like, I suck at technology. If you're good at that, then help me. And
strengths and weaknesses, baby.
Yeah.
Where you
That's
lack,
what it really
I pick up.
was.
Where I lack, you
compliment
pick up.
each other.
It was my intention was pure.
Yeah.
But the ego was scored. If I can get my delivery wasn't the best.
So I don't know. I'm like just really happy to know that you're not out here dating no bitches that are throwing shit in your face, because I was ready. I was ready after this episode to create a little hit list. You feel me? And they was gonna get it, all of them.
Hit list.
But no, that actually like makes me really happy to hear, and also like it's really shitty for myself. You know, I'm like, damn, that's me.
Yeah, that's me.
It's me. No,
Are
it's just
you
me.
vulnerable with your male friends?
No, I wouldn't say it, but I do have a friend I would say that's kind of vulnerable. And I was like, damn, bro. Like, I even said those things like, it ain't that serious.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I didn't say that to him. But
Right.
in my mind, I'm just like,
Wait. Off camera. Which friend was it?
no, I can't.
No, we won't put it in. I'll edit it out. I just want to know.
No.
Okay. All right. I'm going to leave it in now that you didn't stay. They're going to see that you're right. They're going to see that you a true one.
Nah, but it's just like, like when it just simple situations that I think a conversation can solve, but you're just complaining about it. You know? And really, I don't know, like some things I'm passive on a lot of things. So maybe that's the reason. Maybe it's not him. Maybe he deserves to be vulnerable for that situation. But I guess just me looking at it as through my lens, I'm just like, it's not that serious. But I would never say that.
No, yeah.
I'll give him the advice that I think he should do. Talk it out.
That's so sweet.
I think a lot of things are perspective.
Yeah.
So just because it may not bother me doesn't mean it's not bothering you, type of thing. And not everyone has perspective, though.
The thing about like guys and like talking to your friends and like the thing that I love that you just said you don't do and made it a point to say that you don't do is tell him that. Like if you don't personally think it's as serious, or like Zena said, if it's not how you would necessarily react, that you don't tell him that. Because a lot of times, like especially girls, like we have like certain tropes that we do and it's just like, couldn't be me, or like something like that. And while it's like joking, at the same time, it's not really necessarily what your friend would be looking for. But especially in male groups where I feel like, as you said, society, everybody's telling you don't cry, don't be expressive with your emotions. The last thing he needed was a friend telling him the same thing. And what I think would be super useful for not only just men, but also women are just more of those spaces. Like we need more resources for men in general, or like more examples, like the Super Bowl, the 30-year-old, I don't even know if he was a quarterback, y'all, forgive me. But whoever the main guy was on the Rams that won, and he was crying on the after the post game, like once
Odell?
Nah, not Odell. Odell was crying because for different reasons. But the man that was like leading the team, shit, I wish I knew his name. We gonna add it in right here though.
Not the one that rushed home to the hospital because his wife was having a baby.
The one that got the last sack on the
like the quarterback, like the big, the one who was saying like he's like the best player in the league. Like everybody was like giving him props. Him. This 30-year-old just won a Super Bowl on national TV, the most televised program in the history of television. And he's crying, and not crying because he's like sad, but crying because he's happy, and he's not wiping the tears away, and he's not trying to talk through them. I mean, he's not trying to like talk them away. He's just talking through them. He's not wiping them away. They're on his face on a big ass platform. And I thought that was actually special. He's a sports player, like as manly as they come, right? And here he is expressing himself on television.
I mean, if you want to see a grown man cry, just watch a championship of any sport.
That's every football, Super Bowl game. They be crying.
Football, baseball, basketball, boxing, UFC.
That's true. But I can always appreciate when I see that, because I feel like some people don't try to even express that even in happy moments.
Well, it's an overwhelming feeling. Them thinking back to like, damn, what it really took to get here. Like, yo, it's all Russian right there. And I mean, I think that's one of the places it is acceptable.
Yeah.
Like even though one of them might be a meme tomorrow.
That's what I was just gonna say. You turn into the MJ meme. And then it goes back to what you were saying, people laughing at you crying. And you wonder why men don't want to open up.
That's true. It's true. It was a meme, but it is accepted in that area.
But look how men look when they cry, you know?
I think
because we're not used
so
to it.
Cute. I'm not gonna lie. I'd be like, that shit makes me cry when I see him cry. It breaks my heart when I see a man cry, for real.
It's like, damn, hurt him that much? That's what
yeah.
But nah, it probably hurt him regular. He's probably just a little bit more emotionally available to let it out.
Do you remember one time seeing your dad cry ever?
Yeah, I did.
Like when we was kids?
Nah.
That's what I'm saying.
Nah, not when we was kids.
There was only one time I ever seen that man cry, and I was 12 years old. And not only did he cry, but he put his head on my shoulder while crying. And I was so unprepared. I had no idea what to do.
There was probably a lot of anxiety relief getting out right there, and you didn't even know about it.
I had no idea. No, I could, even at 12 years old, I swear you could feel like just that
heaviness.
Yeah, it was so heavy. I had never been in that. Like that shit, like it's like right now, like even thinking about it, like that was one of the moments where I was like, whoa. And then but I think what you said that kind of like stuck with me, because for me, because that was such a heavy moment and so many things were going on in that time, for me, it was like, oh, okay, men only cry when like the weight of the world is on their shoulders. So that kind of conditioned that in my mind a little bit. And it's like, oh, okay, because you see, this one time in my entire life that I've ever seen my dad cry, it was literally when his entire world was crashing down. So for me, that almost became like the staple, like, oh, this is when men cry. So when I had seen men releasing their emotions in other areas when maybe things just weren't that serious, or that's how I saw it, it wasn't hitting in the same way. It wasn't hitting home. And it wasn't necessarily validating that man and his feelings.
What I was going to say is, when I said, my friend it wasn't that serious. Also, recently when I've been going through things, I'm like, you know what? Now I can see why people get vulnerable, because now it's feeling like it's too much for me that I'm like, damn, that's why my friend was talking to me. Sometimes it's good to let it out.
Yeah.
And if you ever feel something that, that's weighing you down and really emotionally affecting you, I think you got to speak to somebody, whether it's family, friend, someone just close to you. Doesn't have to be a partner, but I think it's healthy to get that out.
Yeah.
Be vulnerable. Talk to yourself in the mirror.
Mm-hmm. Do you do that?
Nah.
He's so cute. We had like a conversation like maybe like 2 weeks ago until like 5 a.m. And I was like, so you had to work at like 2 hours, but we were just sitting there for like 3-4 hours just chatting about every and anything. And I even like texted you after and I was like, thank you, because like I really appreciated you sitting there and like for 4 hours, like when you had to go to work too, and like just chatting with me, just telling me how you felt about certain things, everything from just like the past couple years of your life, everything. And like I really, really, really appreciated that, and I really appreciate you for inspiring this episode today.
Hey.
Yeah, we did touch a little bit about.
Did you feel like I was being vulnerable that time?
Yeah, you were.
Oh, yeah,
but that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You were being vulnerable.
I wasn't there. But
I think I probably was being. I think I was probably being vulnerable unconsciously.
Yes,
I was trying to talk to you through situations that probably I went
you
through.
forget something in you. Mm-hmm.
So
that's what the thing is. Like a lot of the times women, we don't necessarily know how to receive vulnerability because we see it as one thing and one thing only. We see it how we're vulnerable with our friends. We see it how we relate our vulnerability to our lovers or our partners, family, whatever. But we're not even catching the little moments, like when your man just comes home or when your brother just comes home and they say, I'm tired. You know, just for a man, especially a black man, to say I'm tired, that's a lot. Listen, like what the video, somebody sent me a video of that man on Charlemagne saying something like that, and I remembered it, and that stuck with me because I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, imagine. Yeah, seriously. Like we just have to like listen, be more receptive to the smaller moments and where they're being vulnerable. No, they don't have to cry. No, they don't have to say, when I was 5, this is what happened that changed the course of my entire life and made me. No, like we don't need all of that, but definitely just receiving it when it's coming to you and in the forms that people are willing to give it to you. Okay? Not how you think it just needs to be received. Right?
It could be as simple as, you're tired, take a nap, rest. Like, I like to nap. Do you want to nap together?
Oh my God, a good nap together? That's the what? Y'all in love when y'all nap together.
Yes. I think it's just so important to create a safe space for men and letting them know that.
Yes.
And like thanking them when they share shit with us, you know, like instead of just being like, oh my God, you're telling me, like, thank you for being open and being comfortable with me to share those things with me rather than.
And what do you need from me moving forward? Yeah. What do you need from me? Do you need, when you come and speak to me, when people speak to me, especially like sometimes like my boyfriend, when he's going through something, because he's got a lot of like family issues, when he's going through something, I always ask him like one of 3 things. Like, do you want me to make you forget about it? Do you want to vent? Or do you want me to like give you some advice? Because I just want to know where he needs me, how he needs me in those moments. Yeah. Because I don't know if he just wants to vent and just needs to get everything out, like you said. I don't know if he wants me to really give my input, because that's another reason why sometimes maybe men don't share with us. We always have to have a solution. We always have, or think that we have a solution and be like, well, why don't you just try this thing instead? And then it's just like, won't you shut your ass up? That ain't gonna work.
Or you don't get it.
You really don't get it. Like you really don't fucking get it.
It circles back to like what you said earlier. It's like you told somebody and just now one more person knows and there's no solution.
Yeah.
Now it's just another motherfucker that know how sad you is. Now what? Now what? So yeah, just how can we as women, I think we just kind of answered that a little bit, but how can we as women just make us, make it easier for men to come to us?
I mean, I wish you had kind of pointed to this earlier. I do wish that there was more resources or just like more talk in the app, in just a space about like how we can help men out, or just like what to do when a man comes to us with vulnerability. Like, yes, you can do that on the individual level, but I think as like on a major scope, like globally, it'd be better too.
Absolutely. Just
for the conversation.
Yeah, so I like that.
I said my part already.
What said? Cannot be unsaid.
I don't remember, but you guys just
we got
it.
Thank them. We got it.
Thank them for telling you.
We got it. And Adam, what do you think as like for a man, what do you think can be done within y'all spaces, like guy spaces, like maybe can help you be more vulnerable with each other?
Men like to joke around a lot, so like
that's
just kind of like, realizing when someone is really in a situation to kind of like aid them in the system and not make it a joke.
Yeah.
So, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, just relearning how, like relearning vulnerability.
Yeah.
And relearning how to be there for people in those moments. Because that was my issue. I make everything a joke. Everything's funny to me. And I'm not trying to be a dick. It's just funny.
But sometimes people laugh because it's uncomfortable.
That's
that's how they deal with it. And then if your friend also thinks it's uncomfortable, he's definitely not gonna want to like interact with that. It's like, I don't know how to deal with this shit. I don't know. Yo, be you good man. You high? Like
you high?
Just another motherfucking nose.
Just another motherfucking nose. That's just how you
gonna be all right. Just another motherfucking nose. What you going through? No solution.
Fact though, that's really a fact. How many times can you have somebody say, "Damn, bruh, sorry"? How many times you gonna hear that before you like? What you gonna do? But what we gonna do about like word? Anybody got any real suggestions in the building? Because this shit ain't working no more. It was never working.
I'm asking you what you gonna do. I'm trying to figure it out. You gonna help me or not? If I knew what I was gonna do, I would be talking to you. It's okay,
that's a fact.
I think that's why you gotta also speak to the people that you feel maybe that will connect with you at that time. You know, if you know one of your friends is a joker and not really not capable of having that type of conversation, don't even bother.
Yeah.
Go to a older person.
Yeah.
Go to your parents.
Not ours. Well, not our dad, but
like,
go to
someone around.
We could go to our mamas.
Go to God.
That's where we learn how to not be vulnerable from our dad. Go to God.
Sometimes you need someone to respond.
Talk to him.
I mean, he responds, but you want someone to like respond.
No,
my crystals ain't got no answers for me right now.
I'm trying to get a sign. I'm looking for some
this
clarity.
damn sage and Palo Santo ain't doing it no more.
He got a pendulum. Is it swinging or not? What am I doing? Because I don't know.
Universe, we need you. Send us some of these answers,
Long story short, know your friends.
Yeah, you did say go to your parents. And really quickly, I just want to throw in, sometimes we learn not to be vulnerable from our parents. Yeah. Look at our father.
Yeah.
Look at our dad.
I want to end this on a positive note because my dad does cry a lot and is very vulnerable and feels very safe with me. And that's like my best friend. If you don't treat me like my dad, I don't want you, really. So my dad, we have that, you know?
Yeah.
And I think over time, he's like, has taught my brothers that. And it's just a beautiful thing. And I really encourage everyone out there to be vulnerable and cry and let things out and be open with people that you feel safe with. Because he doesn't do that with all my siblings. It's really just me. So I'm not bragging, but that's my best friend.
You already know.
Yeah. I want to leave it on that note.
Thank you again, Adam, for being here today and inspiring the conversation. And if you want a permanent position, just let us know. We need that male perspective.
As the male correspondent.
It's my first podcast.
You are natural.
Yeah.
You trying to take my seat?
All right, y'all can share. There's no seats at the table. Honestly, though,
you want to be the resident male perspective. I like that. I like
go home,
that.
Do my homework.
You're gonna see his face more often. For ever many times he wants to be a part of this platform. And until next time, love you, bro. Before you go, like, subscribe, share, comment, ring the little notification bell. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on Spotify. We on what else? We on?
Apple Podcasts and wherever else you listen to podcasts, because that's everywhere.
That is facts. Adam, you got anything you want to say? Close them out with.
Honestly, though, this was dope.
Thanks for tuning in.
We're your hosts,
Zena,
Symphony,
Bree, and Ashley.
If you want to see more of us, check us out on YouTube and Instagram at Honestly Though Podcast and our website, www.honestlythoughpodcast.com.
As always, if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and drop a like and share Honestly Though with your friends.
Until next time, keep it honest.
With zero sugar and refreshingly delicious, is Coca-Cola Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? Pick some up at Quick Trip today. With zero sugar and refreshingly delicious, is Coca-Cola Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? Pick some up at Quick Trip today.